Welcome to Rules and Public Policy. It is Monday, February 9 at 6 p.m. And we will first confirm attendance and a quorum, and all 4 members of the committee are here, so we are good to go there. Next up is agenda. Did anyone, my agenda, the draft agenda, we're working with a new format, basically that allows us to group every single thing that this committee currently has on our plate by priority. So we've decided, I conferred with my vice chair earlier or late last week and figured out how we were going to group things by priority. First, does anyone have anything that you notice that might be missing from our punch list?
Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
New and old business.
I beg your pardon?
New and old business.
It's on there. It's on page 2.
I don't have it in the one you sent out. It says
Priority 8.
It's number 8, 7, and 8.
Oh, you're right. Sorry about that.
No, you're fine. I was going to say there's some extras in the corner if you didn't get page 2. So, all right. So without objection, we'll go ahead and confirm the agenda. Previous meeting minutes from January 12th. Those were also sent out to the committee. Does anyone see any amendments to the minutes from January 12th for this meeting? All right, without objection, we're going to take the minutes from January 12th. I don't see anyone here. Well, there's one person from the public, one guest. So this is the portion where we have public comment specific to the Rules and Public Policy Committee. And I don't believe anyone would be speaking to us tonight for Rules and Public Policy. So we'll move on. I beg your pardon?
She said, oh, I thought maybe she would say she wanted to speak.
Did you want to speak to the Rules and Public Policy Committee? Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
have a question, and y'all can remind me. I just don't remember. At one point, that public comment was in council rules, that there was none. I can't remember if it was updated and when. It's been, Ms. Zorb, you probably can remember when there was no public. I just want to make sure that it's in your rules, since it's on the agenda. At one point,
I think it was at the discretion of the committee chairperson was where we landed with
in
that.
the rules, so you took out no public comment. I'm fine, I mean, that's.
I'd have to go back and
I just want
verify.
to make sure that it's not in there hidden.
Okay.
I can't recall from the last meeting.
I can check on that.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I think, and Mayor, good evening. I think that it was in the council rules, but also there's an addendum that permits the council committee chair to use their discretion.
Okay.
That's correct.
I just
yes.
remember, thank you. I just remember. I just didn't want you guys to have it on there and your
Sure,
rules. Yeah.
absolutely. Okay. So I am going to go on to number 5. And if anyone needs a copy of this meeting packet, it's on the gray table in the corner by the air wall over there, the packet for today's meeting. Over on the gray round table. All right, so next up, I do want to say that just for the viewing audience who haven't seen this agenda yet,
Excuse me.
priority 1 will be referrals to the committee. That way we can make sure that we can, in our limited amount of time, address things that people are waiting on from this committee so that you guys can move forward with your lives. So first up we had the request for expenditure policy and municipal volunteer PO policy. It's my understanding that those were first introduced to this committee in October or November, but I had October on the memorandum that was sent to council members October 9th.
Madam
So do you
President,
want to give us, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say that the volunteer policy was sent in error. That doesn't need to be reviewed by your committee, but the request for expenditure policy does.
Okay. Thank you. I was actually kind of glad to see that volunteer policy because I have a piggyback on that in just a few minutes here. So I do see that Ms. Stevens Knott is here, just for the sake of those of us who were not around when this was first introduced. Do you want to give us a very quick overview of what the intent is here?
So both policies, the intent is to answer a request or basically make right a finding from our audits from 2021 to 2022. So we had findings about not having policies and procedures in place for funds to be expended by way of the auditor and ORC. Funds have to be certified by the finance manager prior to dollars being expended. So we were doing things out of order. So these things put in place a process so that we are in order. And council didn't have anything. And so council was, especially in 2025, just was trying to spend money and didn't have a practice or a policy in place or practice in place in order to do it properly.
Okay, so this policy then not only covers internal operations, but also council operations
For dollars, yes.
or expenditures. Okay.
That is correct.
And I see here the second bullet says request approved by the clerk of council.
So the idea was a thought of, at the end of the day, it's a administrative practice, because you all as a council would look at your line item, you all would make a decision what it is that you wanted to buy, but the clerk of council would be in position to because they would get your budget and they would be able to say, hey, yes, there is money in this line item, no, there isn't. And so that would be for you all, your check to make sure that you're not doing something that's outside of your encumberment. But it's up to you all. It was just a suggestion of, it's an administrative task. So why not leave it in the hands of an administrative position?
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Stevens Knott, so I guess the confusion in my mind is because I heard Ms. Clear say that this is for city employees and for council. So is it one, maybe that's where my confusion is. Is it one document that covers everyone, or is there a separate document for council?
So this particular expenditure policy, it's duplicated as it relates to city administration, but the council didn't have anything. So what was presented was a expenditure policy specifically designed for council and what your processes is. So it reads clerk of council or department heads, so then it can apply either way. But again, council didn't have anything. So this was getting something in place so that you all understand what's the proper way of getting things purchased.
So can you, I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
May I follow up?
As long as it doesn't
Real quick.
get like
Too
well,
far into the weeds.
Here's how we're going to be here all night if we're doing Madam Chair every 10 seconds. So if you have something where you're working through like a brief conversation for clarity, I'm okay with you guys having that conversation without having to ask me every time you want to respond.
Thank you.
Okay.
So I guess I'm still trying to understand the delineation then. If the clerk if this is running through the clerk, would the department heads run it through the clerk?
No,
I guess that's where I don't see a delineation in this. Maybe I'm just not reading it the way I should.
Again, this was simply, okay, you have two things that were going on back then.
Madam.
So clerk of council, department heads are synonymous. Clerk of council is you all's department head. I am the finance department head. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, so I don't run anything through the clerk of council. It gets run through me being the department head. So it was an attempt to create one document that addresses a practice that is citywide, so that there is no question of, well, council does it one way, but the city who does it something different. No, we all do it this way. So that was, so I didn't want to write two
but I have to bring something to you all for what works for you, but it's still the same practice across the board for everyone.
That makes sense. Thank you.
All right, so I'm gonna go back to, so there's a cover letter, essentially, a council memorandum, and then the policy itself is on the back of that. Well, the way I printed it, because I'm trying to save a tree. All right, so request for expenditure form, I did want to look at that real quick. We'll work through our internal approval process for some of this. I think that's mostly where we were having a lot of hiccups in the past, was it was difficult to determine what should that look like internally to council. But we'll cross that bridge here in just a minute on the agenda. So the request for expenditure, so the intent is that there would be a paper form for the request for expenditure from council, or not like a Microsoft Forms or something we can do online, or
I might get there, but one
okay.
thing I was dealing with is a council prior that was not tech savvy. But we can definitely get there. I would prefer an electronic form, but I also did not want to limit anyone's ability to process.
Madam President.
Chair is fine.
Chair, sorry. Meeting's confused. Also, too, we were doing things out of order, like they were assigning vendors and buying things and making motions, and we hadn't even gotten vendor requirement paperwork. So we were having to, per a motion on council floor, retrieve or get paper, vendor approval. And we don't want to do that. We're literally spending money before we've even gotten the vendor approved.
Okay, that makes sense. Having been on that side of the table, I can completely appreciate where you're coming from with that. And it's not atypical. Most organizations have a procedure where you must work through some form of a financial gatekeeper before. You can't just buy anything from anybody. Some corporations even go to a point where if you're issued a purchase card, it will not work for certain vendors at all, even if you try to swipe it or without authorization. So understanding that these controls are necessary and it's a good step. I like it.
Madam
But
Chair.
I did want to.
I have one more
Sure.
add, very short. It also helps us if there's already a vendor that we're using for that same thing that we're paying for, like that could spread across council. We don't have to reinvent the wheel or pay for things twice.
Yes, that's another good point. So the only thing I noticed on here, and perhaps this is my Captain Paranoia hat, if the request is coming from an elected official like a council member, and it is a municipal vendor setup form, we're forwarding this to you, right? If we want to use a new vendor, we have them send this to you. Because that's what we used to do internally. I don't know if I'm just clarifying.
Yeah, the vendor packet does come to finance.
Okay, so if we needed to purchase something, we want to set up, just send this to, and they may already be in your system. We don't even know, right?
Correct.
So we can send this to you.
Correct.
So the only thing I noticed, and maybe this is something that the committee can discuss, is the municipal vendor setup form. I would personally like to see a disclosure checkbox at the bottom. It doesn't necessarily mean that a conflict of interest is disallowed.
Oh,
But
okay.
if there is, like if I want to get something from someone and they pay rent to my sister as a tenant, that is something that potentially we would just need to have on the radar. So I didn't know if that was something, just if it's a vendor, like I know, I don't know, but sometimes
No, you're fine.
if we have like a DJ or something and they're somebody's cut, you know what I mean? Just so
I
we
could
have it
definitely-
documented.
I can definitely add that because that was actually one of our findings in 2021 and 2022 about conflict of interest. So good catch.
It's just a disclosure, and just so everyone's aware, it doesn't mean that we can't buy from this person. It just means that we're aware that
Yep.
that it could be a potential conflict of interest. So if that vendor were to come back and want something from the city, whoever, it's like, this is my cousin, I gotta stay out of that conversation. So,
Madam Chair,
or cousin, wrong relation. Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Stevens, not good evening. Just a quick clarifying question for you. Is there a backup approval point person in the event you're out of the office, traveling the world?
No, ma'am.
Can't get to it in time. So what is your estimated time of approval if council needs to have your permission, so to speak? And I use that word very loosely in order to procure the purchase.
Well, I mean, there is. Oh, that's crazy. John Newstead is calling. The question would have to be that we have a 30-day. We process things pretty quickly. It's not things don't sit on our desk. So our department processes things actually sometimes too quickly because we actually have a net 30 policy that we don't often take care of. So if it's in the box, because we do have an email, if it gets sent over, they get set up. You get notified when the PO is issued. You have access. Because the way that our system is set up, that when a purchase order is issued, it is emailed to the requester. So it is that document that allows you to move ahead with the purchase.
Thank you for clarifying. And are we only receiving, I think I saw check and ACH? We don't take credit card either?
We do not currently.
Is it because we're not set up? Is that something you see in 2026?
I definitely see it in 2026 of being able to process credit card payments, but I guess the question would be for what?
So some companies, they can give us a check, but that's a little bit antiquated. A lot of companies have a procurement card that they utilize. And so if we can't take that form of payment, it limits the scope of the number of vendors or the type of vendors, so to speak, that we can actually do business with.
That's fair. So we are definitely moving into an ACH EFT space that will be in place before the end of Q2. And I do believe that in there that is an option, probably more ACH EFT. I work really hard to stay away from merchant accounts simply because of the fees. So there's a convenience fee that definitely the city doesn't need to pay for. So that ends up going backwards onto constituents and vendors. And a lot of people, so that it's, about 4% right now. It used to be 3%, but it's actually hovering around 4% now for every purchase that is made with a credit card. So, we would have to add that. Don't know if that's simply something we would want to do. Everyone can do quote unquote bill pay, which is ACH EFTs. So we'll be able to do that.
Madam
So I
Chair.
just had,
I'm sorry.
I was going to ask just one more. So on the request for an expenditure, and I'm also looking at the municipal volunteer form because I like that too. If it is an online, like a solely an online vendor, like we can find this item and the very best deal we can find is through Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
Similar, I mean,
The process, that is a whole nother story, but the process is still the same, and then it will be procured on the back end.
okay, so would the clerk of council then be issued a debit card, or how would that purchase transpire?
Those would be in the notes. Like, this is the only place we can get it, and then we would make sure that we procure it for you on your behalf on the back end. So basically, the finance office would buy it for you.
Okay, so
I got you.
So I'm just trying, so if there's a request for
problem.
an expenditure, department requester, description, justification, suggested vendors, and if it's like Amazon, then you would make sure that at least for her tracking purposes, or her or him, whoever the clerk might be at that moment, the receipt then would come back for tracking purposes
So
against
everything.
the budget, or how does that?
Okay, so you do this before you make a purchase. So what happens is then the person who makes the request gets a copy of the purchase order, which then tells them the number that's being used, the amount, the vendor, and then what happens when, let's say, so we use Amazon as the example, we use the credit card. When the credit card is paid, that then triggers that the purchase order is used up. When the purchase order is used up, that triggers another email that goes to the requester that, hey, not only that this it has been paid for. And of course, there's communication. Hey, clerk or council, just want to FYI you, we did make this purchase. It's being delivered to the city building. Be on the lookout for it. There's definitely a level of communication. We're not just going to leave you in the blind.
Madam Chair.
You can just say Ms. Clear, Madam Chair, I'm not picky.
That also helps
Thank you.
us manage taxes and things. So like if you guys are purchasing it on your own or through your own Amazon or whatever, and then turning in the receipts, you don't have the waiver of taxes, which we can get a ding for, and we actually have to file for
Reimbursement
a
of sales
reimbursement,
taxes.
which is a pain in the butt. Not that I've ever done that.
It is a royal pain in the butt.
Yep.
You have to fill out a form. You have to have a copy of the receipt. You have to send it up to the state and give the reason as to why you paid sales tax.
Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
So I just want to clarify on this form also, is there a way, or maybe I want to make sure I heard you correctly and clearly, if we have a vendor, the vendor will have to have the paper form manually write out their information and then,
Or I'll send it to you in a Word doc or in a PDF, and
Okay.
they type it in.
yeah, okay, that was going to be my question. Is this available in a PDF form?
Once it
that's-
gets approved.
Okay, and then even taking it a step further, is there a way to even say, hey, here's our city's website, submit your information, that way there's not many hands it has to pass through, it can go directly to the person, maybe the approval person 1 is our clerk, approval person 2 is you?
So we currently do not have a system that allows these things to move electronically like that yet. That would be great, but that's just not the capabilities of our current system.
You can fax it.
Smoke signal, give it by carrier pigeon. We'll get it.
I do remember at least there was one vendor that I worked with who didn't do anything on a computer, so we would actually get it back in the mail.
In the mail, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's important that we make ourselves available to all levels of vendors. We still have mom and pop shops that are operating in cash only. So, you know, we want everything to be electronic, but not everyone. So I think it's important that we try as best we can to accommodate all.
Okay, so the next step then, what do you need from us to move this to the next? I'm assuming I'll get some of the revision, like adding online or the disclosure piece, we'll get a updated revised version, okay. And what do you need from us as a next step? Would that be a resolution to adopt, or how does that?
And now that I do not know about resolutions or ordinances. I think it was more about this is our policy, and I feel like as this committee says, this is what our policy is, and then we move forward.
Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
I think from a council perspective, you could do it 2 ways. If you want to make a legislation, you could, but you could actually just put it in your council rules as this is the expenditure policy that must be followed by council members who needing to make purchases, which is an easier way. And then it is more, you can revise it as needed without a particular piece of legislation. I think it prolongs the process, just my 2 cents.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I think a motion of receipt that you did receive it, and acknowledging that council received it and they understand the procedures. Ms. Dukes, I have a question. You said you could amend it.
If they decided steps 1 through 3 are really their procedures
Okay.
internally, steps
Okay, I just
3 and on are ours.
I wanted to make sure you wasn't talking about the steps that
No,
pertain
not
to,
that.
okay.
Not the whole thing. So they can decide how they want to move it through their council group as they want to.
Madam Chair.
So I just wanted to give us, we have a 5-minute warning here, but I did have one further question just really quickly. At least for my fellow committee members, if you do take a look at municipal volunteer purchase order request policy, we may be able to adapt something internally that would help us at least use these steps internally to say, okay, if we're going to buy something, whoever wants to, we do this internally, and then the handoff to the process to go ahead and execute the order. You know, so that's why I'm like, ooh, I like this, because it gives us a starting point for that process as well. Yes, Ms. Orb.
So I do appreciate that the comment that we could amend the steps 1, 2, and 3. So, and actually, I was kind of thinking, pardon me, could we even add where it says clerk of council or designee? I'd like to add the president of council, like,
I was
so that
thinking that
two-
as well.
two sets of eyes were on it. And then I do also like the idea of adding it to council rules and not the legislation route, because sometimes legislation can get,
Yeah,
forgive me, just.
it gets
like-
top-heavy.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
does. And this would be more readily accessible to everyone.
And I
as
want to
they
say we
come
mentioned
on
this
board.
was a whole in the organizational meeting as well.
Yep.
But we were already 2 hours in at that point. I don't think anyone wanted to spend another half an hour talking about procurement.
Yep.
So, all right. So I think we've got our next steps here. If you wouldn't mind forwarding, if you could give us the Word version of it, that way it's easier to incorporate that into our rules once we get that far.
No problem.
Thank you. Anything else about expenditures? 4 minutes left, 3 minutes and change. Okay. So I am not sure if we will get through onboarding new council members. Everyone has the handout that the clerk of council did meet with administration, because there is some crossover between when we get new people in to council or when people are leaving council. There's some HR things that have to be done, and as well as things that need to be done with the Board of Elections and things like that. So this checklist was a starting point to help us to define, and again, this also could be something that we add to council rules if we are so inclined. But I did want our committee to be aware and be looking at that. So the last thing, I'm not going to take comment on that right now. We'll have to save that one for a future meeting. But the last thing I did want to talk about while we have the four of us here together, our specific meeting time would not change, but we're proposing to extend our committees to an hour, basically reverting to the schedule that we had prior to when we instituted the half-an-hour meetings on the same day. That is at the bottom of page 1 under priority 2. And I intentionally skipped roll call as well. That's another topic we're going to need to dig in to later. So if no one objects to from this committee for 6 o'clock on the second Monday, which is basically the same as it is right now.
So, Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
my only, I am all for moving everything to an hour, because I always feel so rushed in these meetings now. But is there any way we could make it a 6:30 instead of a 6?
I'm not opposed to 6:30.
Just, if I have to go into the office, by the time I drive home, it's 5:30, trying to get all my stuff together and get up here by 6. Sometimes it's just a mad scramble. I don't know. If I'm the only one, I will make it work.
So that
but-
would, if we started at 6:30, then public safety would be at 7:30. Thankfully, we have the public safety chair right here, and we can talk about that in that committee, which is next.
Yeah. Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Zorb, I think that would work. However, if any of our meeting ran late, we're going to be here later in the evening. So I just want to respect everyone's time who's
I
in
get it.
attendance,
Ma-
including the audience, for
Madam
that
President,
proposal.
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Chair, sorry. I know I don't have any stake in this, but it's hard to be here late every single Monday. I know you're trying, and I've had that blight where you had to rush, but I prefer 6. I think Ms. Cureton's made a good point where if we ever run late, we're just running late.
Ms. Chichester?
I would like to keep it at 6, but I set my schedule already for 6. So, because I meet with another organization after our committee meeting, so I usually are running late to that meeting. So if we go later, I totally miss those meetings. So.
Understood. Okay. So do we want to, we'll leave it unchanged for the moment. So since this involves more than just this committee, do we want to add this potentially to new business for council on Tuesday? Are we okay with that? And that way we can kind of just work through it and get it done and potentially launch in March with a new schedule.
Yes.
Does that sound reasonable?
Yes.
All right.
Before we adjourn.
Yes,
Madam Chair, I was just gonna say, Ms. Zorb, I understand coming traffic and everything. We would excuse you. Because we understood, and
Thank
Yeah.
you.
you're welcome.
Okay. And we got about 2/3 of the way through the first page of the agenda. So looking forward to an hour-long meeting where we can get a little bit more accomplished. But with that, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
6:32, and we are going to start our not rules and public policy, our public safety committee meeting. I am Kathy Curitan, and I am your chair. I see the entire committee is here this evening. Mr. Davis is our vice chair, and on this committee is Mashla Alexander, Annalisa Clear, and Mary Jo Zorb. The first thing I would like to do is see if anyone had a chance to review our meeting minutes. If there are any redactions, modifications. Hearing none, we shall move forward. I'm excited to see Chief Cheney in the building this evening. Good evening, Chief Cheney.
Good evening.
Thank you so much for the information that you provided to myself and the committee regarding your January stats for the police department. If you would not mind, can you just share a little bit more beyond what's here, more so the offenses, your clearance rate, and the big wins at McShell?
Okay, well, I brought a ton of stuff for you, and I think I might have had that
You want
point.
me to pull up?
Yes, please, sorry.
It's okay, no worries, no worries.
I brought a lot of information, and that January thing to you, it's not included. My yearly recap is included, but
It's all good, no worries. So more so,
Here you go.
yeah, okay.
Sorry, let me just click. Oh, that's the grant. Wait a minute. Is that it?
Yep.
All right, here, here's my mouse.
okay. All right, I'm ready. Shoot, ma'am.
Well, I just wanted to actually have you talk through this document, some of the offenses, arrests, traffic incidents, and the big wins that occurred with McShell.
So, our obviously the biggest win is the McShell incident, where we had two gentlemen come in and brandished long rifles into the store. Our officers responded immediately. The subjects were obviously gone right after that, or right before we got there, but through the investigation of video, eyewitness testimony, we were able to develop what kind of car it was rather quickly. Using our flock system, we were able to determine the license plate. So the officers then immediately put out an all-county BOLO. Cincinnati, then within like 10 minutes, located the vehicle in Cincinnati, conducted a traffic stop, detained those individuals, and then we were able to go down and verify that it was those subjects, and we made the arrest. So 2 counts of making, we weren't going to do terroristic threats, but speaking with the prosecutor's office, we felt like that didn't apply. So we just went with ag menacing because they were kind of threatening somebody. So cases like that, we try to refer to the prosecutor's office to get the best possible outcome for the citizens or victims, and to get the most, I hate to say it, but the most time that we can for the individuals who committed the crime. Fortunately, it's Hamilton County, so you never know what outcome is actually going to be. It's very frustrating right now. It's things that the Police Chiefs Association, Prosecutor's Office, and judges are working very hard to kind of fix. The system's been broken for a while. So in a collaboration, all of us together, we're trying to fix the system, but it's just, you know, when you have people who have done things for so long and that's the way we've always done them, it's hard to break that cycle. So, like we were just at the Chiefs meeting on last Wednesday, the prosecutor was there, and they have basically redone, it used to be, especially for like murder cases and stuff, they would try not to even go to trial. They would try to just come up with plea deals, and people may not get exactly the exact punishment they should, or the punishment that the victims were wanting. So this new prosecutor stepped in and was like, okay, we need to try to end this cycle. So they started going away from plea deals, and just last month, or the last couple months, they prosecuted for homicide cases and got convictions on them and longer sentences than what would have taken place before. So, you know, it's a work in progress. I say that because we had an incident where our guys had made a stop on a car, a guy got upset, and then through social media made a lot of comments towards our officers and our officers' families, wishing harm on them and saying he wanted to do harm. So we contacted the prosecutor's office, myself, and had talked to 2 supervisors, got the direction we should go. We arrested the subject without any incident, go to grand jury, and the charges that the prosecutor's office recommended that we file did not go through at grand jury. So obviously for us as an agency, it's like, okay, wait a minute. This is a serious crime towards our officers, towards naming our family of officers, you know, wanting them to have harm done to them, and the prosecutor then declines prosecution. What is going on? So I made a rather passionate call to the prosecutor's office, had a long discussion with the prosecutors in charge of grand jury, and she admitted that it fell on them, so gave us some direction on how to proceed further. So just to kind of give you an idea, that's some of the stuff that we deal with on a daily basis, and that's not just us, it's throughout the county. It's been an effort since last September when we really started noticing, you know, there's always going to be learning curves when you have new people come in. Let's face it, the prosecutor's office for 20 plus years was ran by Joe Dieters, and they did things a certain way. Ms. Powers came in and basically ran it the same way. So when you have somebody new, you're going to have a lot of change. So we're now trying to work through those change and make improvements with the judges, with prosecutor's office, and every agency throughout the county. So.
Good. Thank you for sharing that insightful information. I know how hard our officers are working just to ensure that North College Hill, above all, stays safe and strong. Before I ask a question, does anyone on the committee have a question for Chief Cheney?
Go ahead.
I changed my mind.
Okay, Chief Cheney. Now, if we want, now this is a bit of an interspersion because it's something I got to ask you for later. Mm-hmm. But question is, NCHPD, are we currently involved in any of those 287G agreements? You know what those are? Okay, 287G agreement is that's the new rule that allows local police it deputizes local police officers to basically act and enact as ICE agents.
We have not signed any agreements like that. All I will say is that here's the misconception.
Don't take a stance on it.
ICE has been here for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
They have a field office here. ICE operations have gone through this country forever. Mm-hmm. Our stance is if ICE is in trouble and they call for assistance, they are brother law enforcement officers. We will go and provide them assistance to make sure that they get home safely to their families. We have not been requested or asked to participate in any ICE operations whatsoever. At our level and of agency and size of our community, I highly doubt that would ever come our way. It's more something that you are going to see in a bigger level, like City of Cincinnati, Butler County Sheriff's Office. You know, they sign an agreement. All I care about is if law enforcement goes home at night, our guys and them. I don't care about the politics.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. But also, so if it's if you're dispatched on a mutual aid run, if you're dispatched on a mutual aid run with a department that y'all partner with frequently, like for example the township about a half mile over, which does appear to have those issues going on, who would end up with liability if God forbid something happens while y'all are on a mutual aid run backing up another department?
Well, so for Hamilton County, we're a part of the Hamilton County Chiefs Association, which gives us mutual aid agreement with every county in the agency, okay, which allows our guys to, like, say, for instance, they can work a Bengals game as a detail. It gives them their police powers for there and mutual aid so we can enforce laws and stuff down there.
Okay.
Federal agency is a whole different ballgame. It would really depend on what happened, and what ifs are hard. Like, God forbid if we were backing them up, or if an agency is backing them up, even if we go into Springfield Township on a critical incident and we're backing them up and one of our officers does something, the liability is still going to fall back to us as an agency because our officer is involved in that incident, regardless of where it's at. So like if we went to if we went to a call in Mount Healthy, officer needs assistance call, where there was a shots fired, say an active shooter, and we went up there and our officers were the officers to engage the subject and, incapacitated the subject. Just say if they were incapacitated, they died due to the actions.
Right.
That's going to fall back towards our agency in our city because we did that action. Even though we were in someone else's jurisdiction, we were a part of that action.
Okay. Now, so, and would you be opposed to codifying some of the hypotheticals that we're bringing up into like an actual policy? Like, okay, this is what we'll do or what we won't do, like in regards to like serving federal warrants or something like that. I
don't think you can hypothetical your way out of anything like that. I mean, because there's so many hypotheticals.
Right. So
it would probably take me days and and then we'd have to get, you're talking legal opinion and everything else.
Chair.
One moment, Ms. Dukesting. So thank you, Mr. Davis, for sharing your insight and feedback. I want to ask one leading question with that, Chief Cheney. Does North College Hill officers have 100% active and operable body cameras?
Yes.
Every single officer has a body camera.
So we have 10.
You have 10 body cameras?
10 body cams, and we generally only have 3 officers. Now, it's a good thing you brought that up. We were just granted. We applied for body-worn camera grant for a second time, and we were granted $35,270.
Okay.
So that will cover so we were looking to move away from Motorola and go to Axon, which is a more stable, probably nothing against Motorola, but it's a better product. It's a product that more agencies use.
Sure.
It's easier to work with prosecutor's office in every adjoining agency.
Sure.
And we would get the most update cameras now. So like it would even be programmed to when we get dispatched to a call and we turn our lights and sirens on, the body camera would automatically activate. So that grant covers the first year of the 5-year deal we would sign with them.
Good.
So we would have to, just continuously apply for the grant, but we've gotten it twice. So I wouldn't think it'd be an issue to apply for it again. So doing that, when we did it, we built for 25 body-worn cameras. So that way every full-time officer would have their own. Every part-time officer would have their own. I would have my own, and we would have some extra. So currently how it is, we have 10 cameras that sit in a cradle. They have to log into the WatchGuard system, and they have to check out the camera so it has their name on it. So all the recordings are to them for that day. So when their shift's over, then they dock it and it downloads. And it only takes like 20 minutes to download, depending on how much footage you've had for the day. So
Good. The reason why I asked that question is that Mr. Davis spoke about 287G, the new rule that allows any officer to act as an ICE agent. And however, we talked about Hamilton County, City of Cincinnati, and although we are just a small piece of the puzzle of Hamilton County, their council actually passed a resolution that urges ICE to act just as our officers would. And so I would hope that if that were, and by the way, ICE is here. They're all around us. They've been here.
Yep.
They're in neighboring communities. I hear about it, see it all the time. However, I am only concerned at this point with North College Hill and how we operate and how we move forward. And so it might be even beneficial for council that if ever any of our officers are to support, act as if they were ICE, what have you, the body worn camera would be the proof of anything that would vindicate or justify or what have you, either way. And so their council actually passed that resolution a couple of weeks ago. They're saying if you're going to be here, please follow our rules that we have governed for our city. And so that might be something that our council may want to discuss and consider. Ms. Duxteen?
I was actually going to piggyback on that. So I've been talking to state representatives and my counterparts around different cities to kind of get ahead of the issue because they haven't said we're here, but they're here. So the thing is, they don't know. So it's kind of, a lot of times councils will pass legislation, but we don't want to be a council that, well, can't tell you what you want to be. I would say encourage you to pass legislation that is going to be sustainable. So what I was trying to do is girt you with the information. As to whether or not it would be sustainable if you passed it. Because sometimes you can pass things and it doesn't necessarily mean that the state or the federal government will support you. So that's what I was gathering information for, so that once I got that I could help you to be informed as to whether or not you want to move towards a piece of legislation that sustains that.
Sure. Okay. For the respective time, if there are any additional questions, if we can hold those until our next meeting. I just want to cover a couple of other things, if that's okay with everyone. All right. So the next on our agenda, and thank you so much, Chief Cheney. We appreciate all that you and the agency does for our city. Next on our agenda were the speed bumps. Ms. Duxteen, do you have an update on that for us?
Well, I got this document from Cheney. So we are looking at speed bumps, but there are some speed things that we need to do as a city before we make a permanent decision. I know Mayor has an affinity for speed bumps. We've talked about it back and forth. But what Chief Cheney pulled is the more recent surrounding cities, how the speed bumps are impacting their speed. Is it actually reducing? Is it effective? And so that's the reason why we are kind of taking a pause, because they do an immense amount of damage to our roads. And when we do put speed bumps in, we want to make sure that they are effective and they are worth what we're causing when we put them in and having to keep them up. The ones that we last put in, the snowplows have gotten to some of them. And so before, we need to make an educated decision. So that's where we are with that.
So, Ms. Duxteen, what I was looking for was the study, the analysis of the study report that was done when, oh my goodness, the former Public Works Director was here, and he placed, and forgive me for calling it just a rope, but he placed something across the.
So I've got those datas.
That's not based on.
Sorry,
the-
Matt.
No.
It's
that's
okay.
That's not based on the speed humps. That's just based on the speed
Yeah.
and where speeders are in the city.
That's correct. And I think that's where we wanted to start. We wanted to determine where were the high trafficking areas where speed was excessive. We hear about it around our school district. It's been emphasized
So
all
when
over.
we did do it, I could tell you that, and it's not to doubt what people see whatsoever, but when you're not trained on those things and the calibrations of our LiDAR systems and you watch it every day, vehicles can seem like they are a lot higher speed than what they are. Like, for example, Miss Alexander requested when we were really hitting this heavy and we put it out, 95% of the vehicles on Center Ridge were at 30 miles an hour. So That was for a 2-week period.
Madam Chair.
Let me let Ms. Clear go because she was already, and then, yes, go ahead. And if we
It'll be
can, we
brief.
have, yes, thank you.
So I believe I can't remember if it was in this committee or if it was in a previous council meeting, and I believe it was in 2020, and the copy of it might be in the packet of the equipment that I got with that I had requested was for the We Thrive grant, but the traffic study that JMA had done.
I've looked for that everywhere. I don't have a copy
I
of
have
it.
a copy.
So if someone
I
has a
found it
copy,
in the
please get it to me.
I found it in the We Thrive stuff, so I'm just
Okay.
I just literally just found it like
Because
an hour
I
before
literally
this meeting.
searched
So I
all
can
hard
get that
drives
for
for
you.
it, and I couldn't find it anywhere in our hard drives. So if you can please get that to me, that'd be great.
Yeah, because when we were like the We Thrive things that were going to stay in here versus staying with it, and I did find it in a pile of
Right.
stuff, so I can scan that in and make sure everybody has it.
Right.
But it is 5 years old, so I will
Oh, yeah.
throw that out there. But one of the things I noticed, it was fast to this point, and then the peninsulas totally do their job and slow everybody down, and then it's fast again down there. So it was interesting to kind of look through. But,
Oh, yeah.
and I hadn't really looked at it.
So
in
most of
a
our
long
side
time.
streets that when we did it were,
Yeah.
within 5 miles an hour of the 25-mile-an-hour speed. Now, obviously, you always have outliers where people, and this broke it down that way.
So, but yeah, that's all I
Biggest
wanted to say
portion,
is I did find
obviously,
Yay.
when we were doing this, the worst was the 2 sections of Galbraith Road, down by Clovernook Country Club, and then down by Life Springs Church.
Sure.
Those were like 36 miles an hour, 95%, so about 11 miles over. Not terrible, but still over.
Here's some food for thought for you to consider. I don't know the exact name of the street. I think it's Parish, where there's oftentimes, I can't say all the time, but oftentimes at that corner, people, especially when our kids are coming home from school or either going to school, they zoom through there and they turn abruptly. And subsequently, thankfully, our school district has attempted to, and many of us have served there as well, put a person right there to be eyes and ears for the safety of our students.
Right.
So beyond just speeding, I think we're talking about calming down the traffic in our city so that our walkers, our persons who ride their bikes, or whomever wants to be outside, they don't
Right.
have to worry
I know
about
when
that.
we had the community meetings, we talked about doing the Safer Walk School program where we develop actual routes the kids should follow
Across the
more
school.
than just,
Yeah.
I'm just going to walk this way or that.
Madam
There's
Chair.
other changes I would like, our building's right there. I would like at some point, I don't know if this is city council or if it's myself and Ms. Dukestein, but a lot of traffic backup on Galbraith Road right by the school was caused by Parish because of the driveway, and a lot of people are coming down Parish, and then they make the immediate left-hand turn, and then they stop in traffic because they're trying to pull into the school. I would like to see at some point we make that intersect or that street no left or right-hand turn from 7:30 to 8:30. Come up with some kind of legislation to prevent people from doing that so it moves the traffic up. I talked to the head of Cincinnati's traffic division, Lieutenant Van Horn, and then he got me in contact with some of their engineer people. The city hasn't really been tracking speeds and what the speed humps have done. Most of their tracking is on crash data because obviously that's what you're trying to prevent when you're slowing cars down. And that's what they've tracked with their speed humps, that they've put them in high crash areas and they've seen crashes go down like half, like East Price Hill, Warsaw Avenue, they put speed bumps in 3 different sections. In 2019, they had 60 plus crashes. In 25, they were at 30. So they reduced it by half. So there's good and bad with speed humps. I think we really need to focus on where we need to put them because then the downside is, say we put speed humps on Savannah. Well, then people are like, oh, there's speed humps on Savannah, so now I'm going to use Betts.
Sure. So let's just table this topic. I'm sure that we can continue on. We have about 3.5 minutes remaining in our agenda, and I know Ms. Alexander has. Go ahead.
Yes, just mindful, just when we were talking about Center Ridge, And I know there's different logistics on where you put those lines at, but I noted both spaces where they were put in, they were at a point where people would slow down at. It was at the end instead of like in the middle where the high velocity is. And I know you don't want to put them where people are parking.
Right.
But where those lines were positioned, because I went and I talked to my neighbors, they also was like, well, why are they all the way down here? Because of course they've slowed down once they got here. The high impact was in the middle, and that's in both sections, both in my block and when they were put in the block before. They were not like in the center
Right.
of the street, so you're not going to get that accurate speed count because yes, it's a stop sign right there, so they've already started to slow.
Yeah, the
if you got
process
the
is not
line
easy
there.
because if there's cars
Red
parked
light
there,
there.
you can only, it's very
Sure.
limited. So
So that's what
one
I
of the
had
things
to
we're
say.
looking at, and we're
Yeah.
not at the point of presenting it to council,
Right.
but there is a program out there that Blue Ash just went to, and I've talked to a couple other police departments that will track stuff. So like I said, we are nowhere close to even like presenting to council because it's budget considerations. But something maybe in the future that we could potentially look at that tracks speed for the entire city. So we're not putting out just a hose. It's data that, because every car now has
Sure.
computer chips
Right.
and
Yeah, because
everything can be
we-
tracked.
Right.
So it's super new. There's only one agency that I know of in the county that has it. So we're waiting for their data to really see. A couple other agencies like myself have talked to them, but we're all in agreement, like, let's see really what it does and how effective it is before we want to present it. And-
Right.
Because we don't want to obviously spend money on something if that agency comes back 8 months from now and says, well, this is not really working. It sounds good in theory, but we want to make sure it works first.
So let's continue with this topic. We're going to table it right now because we only have a minute and a half left. But this is good feedback because we are a walking district, and it's getting ready to be spring, and everyone's going to be outside. So we'll come back to it. Ms. Dukestein, thank you so much for providing the confirmation that the city has acquired generators. Can you confirm with us how many have been acquired? I believe you said it was 3. And can you confirm when they were purchased?
We did not purchase generators. We rent generators in the event of the storm. So just to give you kind of what that looks like, that was like $455 for the days that we rented it, and we rented it over a week, and that was for both of them, for both buildings. And we do it for fire and police, just so that when we preempt that there might be weather conditions that would prelude our power going out, that we're not, our emergency services teams are not without power. However, the generator acquisition that you have here on the thing, I will give you an update on that. So our building is not in the condition that we need it to be in order to get generators that we would need to get. So we have to first do some work. We've gotten quotes on that. Joe is leading up that project, and we are moving.
Is that Chief Plackey?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
sorry. Chief
It's okay.
Joe Plackey is leading up that initiative, and he is applying for grants that would service or secure the generators themselves. And so I'm pretty sure he's actively working on that grant. And so we would be able to bring that. The cost is just under $300,000. And so we will be able to get a lot of the generator costs taken care of. We'll probably in-house have to take care of the updates to both the buildings for the electrical work. So it's just a little ways off. $450 for those extreme circumstances where we will be out of power is not a lot. So that's what we've been doing in the interim.
And do you have an estimated time frame of when he'll apply? And
He's actively applying now. I don't know the due date, but I don't know when the grant comes back. Probably somewhere around May.
Okay, good.
It's under Gary Sinise,
Okay.
the actor, because he's like huge supporter of law enforcement and fire. So it's some kind of grant he does. So
Good. Well, we only made it through about 3/4 of our agenda, and it was perfectly fine. It's all good stuff. We will pick back up at our next committee meeting, and we will adjourn at 7:01 p.m. Thank
I
you.
want to thank you guys for sending that PEP stuff we applied for.
hello, everyone who's in the audience, just one, and those administration, thank you for being here. I am going to start our meeting at 7:03. And I would like to welcome our guest, Councilwoman Mary Jo Zorb, for joining us this evening. We're going to start with attendance, and everybody is here.
Excuse me, Madam Chair.
Yes,
Did you
ma'am.
send out agendas? I don't have one.
I'm so sorry.
Can you forward me, or is that a paper copy?
Yes, I have a paper copy for you.
You have one.
Thank you, Ms. Chichester.
Is everything? Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor, I'll make sure that you have an electronic copy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You have one?
I got one.
Okay.
There.
I didn't get it. so.
Okay. Also in your packet, you guys should have received a copy of the minutes from our last meeting. If you guys don't mind taking a look at that and letting me know if there's anything that needs to be amended. Anyone have anything? Seeing nothing, we're going to move on to point number 3, which is July 4th, 2026. At our last council meeting, we kind of discussed that the USA is turning 250 years old, and there has been talk about having a council soiree. And what that would look like is on July 4th, we would get together and bring community leaders and volunteers, students who are doing a lot of volunteer work together, and just kind of honor them. It would be at the Clovernut Country Club. And I just wanted to talk a little bit more about that with the rest of the committee to see if that is something that you guys would like to see.
Ms. Gaston?
Yes.
I just have a quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not sure, and this might be my ignorance, what is the budget for this event? And was that included in the council budget that was appropriated for council this year, or where would that money come from?
That is an excellent question, and I think that that will be discussed a little further in budget and finance, but the goal was hopefully to sell tickets to residents at a low cost, and that would include the food, beverages, band, and things of that nature. In addition to that, there is a small potential that we would also have fireworks there, and that would all be included in that price, and it wouldn't be a liability on the city. But we could discuss that at a further date once the committee decides this is something that they want to do. We're also partnering with a community group that would like to also do a small block party and a parade for the 4th of July. So as time move on and the committee and council decides this is something that we can do and we want to do, further details would come forward.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
who is the community group that you're working with for the block party and the parade?
So it's called the Neighborhood Association Group. It's fairly new. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of it, but they are working really hard behind the scenes to add more events to the community and to just gain more volunteers and things of that nature. So this is their first thing that they want to kind of kick off on a volunteer basis.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
just a question. I see we're talking about July. Are we planning anything for Juneteenth?
Yes, we
Okay.
are planning something for Juneteenth.
If sure we didn't skip Juneteenth.
Oh,
Thank you.
absolutely not. There are residents here in North College Hill who has reached out and asked for assistance from recreation, but we'll get there once we have our recreation director and whomever who wants to throw that together. I know that we partner with Chase Bank and things like that. So as that begins to develop, we could talk about that as well.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
if we're going to work with Chase, we need to do so very quickly, because
Agreed.
they lock in their support for the year early in the year.
Perfect.
So I didn't know if that was on your radar screen already. It is. Awesome. Thumbs up. Okay.
They
Second-
do it by March.
Yeah. Okay. Good. I was just worried about that. I've always got these dates in my head now.
Absolutely.
But speaking of dates, is there is there a list of the city events or things that are currently on the city event calendar?
Yes. So
Because I know we're kind of, we have a new director, So I didn't know if there was a calendar or something, because that way we can reference and know, hey, if I want to volunteer, I can plan accordingly.
So we don't have a new director, not yet. But so what I was gonna say is, so this part of this is just confusing to me because these are city events. 4th of July is a city event. I know council can ask for a report, but like planning a city event, I'm not sure where that is. And then actually I was reading the committee responsibilities per the council rules that were released in 2025 or 2026, and the Rules and Public Policy Committee in number 6, it says gatekeeper for council memorials. And so I think some of these overlap. And then if you're creating a new event that you're going to sell tickets for, that the city doesn't have any responsibility in, I guess that's a different thing, because then that becomes a, like you said, council soiree. What did you call it?
That's it. That's right. Yep.
Soiree. Okay, so that's different. So just help me understand the scope of all of this, because if you're going to ask for city funds, then the city funds that are in the budget are for the city supported event that is ran by the recreational director. But then I have this confusion because of the council memorials, which this would be that, and then this event. So I don't know.
May I respond quickly? I'll try to make it quick, because I know that's historically been a challenge to delineate the events, which are community-led events that maybe the city might support in some way, or things that are city-led events that are city-funded primarily, that maybe the community just volunteers to help. And that was a struggle for me, even in sitting in that seat, because people's perceptions of who's in charge of this, whose event is this, is out of alignment sometimes. And so I think that would help if this is truly like a community-led event that the city is helping out and supporting in some way, versus, but if that's the case, if it's a community-led event, maybe we shouldn't call it a council anything, because that implies that it's a city-run event when it's a community-run event. Does that make sense?
So let me make sure I clarify. So July 4th is a 24-hour day. And so in the morning, the community group wanted to do their part. And so it would bleed into the evening where, pending council's approval, we would have our event for the city. It's just something so that citizens can get together. We can honor and recognize people, bring citizens together. Just a nice community recreational thing that people can look back on and be proud of, especially because our country is turning 250 years old. So this is just an idea that I wanted to throw out there. Just kind of keep it in the back of your mind, kind of parking. We're going to put it in the parking lot for now. And then we could come back and discuss it later, make sure funds, if whatever is needed, is okay in the budget, and just go from there.
So if I could just interject one thing to keep in mind based on what you're saying and how you're prefacing it as well, and then you guys can continue to chat. The problem for the city is that we budget or project based on what we think where our spending is going to be in terms of overtime and those kinds of things. They're completely overtime for our officers, they actually can fall into the area of a detail. And then for public works, they get double time on those days. It gets quite expensive, and I don't think in the past that has been evaluated. And definitely as we move forward, if you guys look at the 2025 budget, 24, we need to look at reducing those overtime buckets to be more in line with the budget, because we get out of we get an excessive amount of spending there.
Absolutely.
Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
And especially because I heard you say it would be on Clover Nook's, their property.
Mm-hmm.
We're asking our employees to go work on someone else's property. I don't know what the insurance like that looks like. We have to take that into consideration as well.
And so, to piggyback on what Mayor says, when we have events on the city of, the North College Hill School District, they are oftentimes barking back at us like, no, this causes us to have to increase their insurance. And so we have mutual agreements with the school of things that they will have with us, and it escalates, and those are the back conversations that we're having that makes it tough. So I just want to bring light to that.
And
Just something to keep in
Madam
mind.
Chair, just
Absolutely. Well, really quickly. So I hear and I respect everything that that's been brought forward, but that's why we discuss it in committee, just so that we can iron out some kinks and things. I think the city deserves something to come together and have fun.
Absolutely.
So however we can figure it out will be great. But right now, I think we need to move on. So we can, if you want to bring
So
it
I
up.
just was wanting to know when would the next planning meeting be for this particular event? Or would it always occur in committee?
We can discuss it at our next committee meeting and then go from there. We'll work with Ms. Dukestein and iron out additional things with her so that we're all on the same page and we have clear communication on what to do next.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Orr.
did you have any inclination to organize a subcommittee for this, maybe?
That's a great idea, and perhaps we would. At our next committee meeting, we can identify who would want to be on that subcommittee
Because
and
we would be
go from
within
there.
less than 4 months out at that point.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, I am aware. Thank you. So, moving on, if no one else has any more questions, just Ms. Dukestein, do we have an update on the Veterans Park grant? I know we talked extensively before, but has anything happened?
We're
since
not
then?
moving on anything with the Veterans Park grant in the month of February, primarily because we have an insane amount of grants that we're trying to apply for. And I think that takes precedence over that, and we don't have a time frame for that. Now, we do want to get it done before we hit the spring and summer. We had a meeting with Ms. Clear, who gave us some pertinent information to be able to hit the ground running in March. But for February, we're just kind of taking care of the city's priorities and with the other grants, the newly applied grants that we need to try to leverage.
Alrighty, thank you for that update. So, in our April meeting, we'll just circle back and see where we are.
Perfect.
Thank you, thank you. And again, this is another one for you, Ms. Dukestein. Any more updates on the UC Health project?
Yep, I turned in the grant application today
Well,
to
awesome.
the UC Health project, and so there are going to be multiple grants that cover the balance,
Mhm.
but that one was for $60,000.
Can you repeat that one more time?
The grant application was submitted today, and there are going to be multiple grants that aid in covering the cost. The one that I turned in today was for $60,000.
Thank you for that update. Is there a location yet, or we're still
There is a location.
awesome? Do you have the freedom to share that location with us today?
Yeah, so it's the location between, it belongs,
Green space.
it's green space. And it shall be used for green space. And it is between the.
It's the pool.
Yeah, old pool.
The old pool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
So I didn't want to share it before because I needed to make sure that I had spoken with Blaylock because he has a buy-in on that.
Mhm.
And the grant holder, I'm sorry, not the grant holder, but the fitness people that are helping us with this, they have a benchmarks that they have to meet in order to place it a particular place. And so this was one of the places that both the city, the school, and they all identified. And they do traffic around there because people will be walking to it. So there's been a lot of traffic studies also around those areas to evaluate speeding and all of those things. So there's a lot of stats that have gone into this location.
Okay.
So for,
Awesome.
Madam Chair, for those who don't know where the pool was, 13 years ago when they filled it in. It's right there, it was right there by
on
the
the other-
playground near the elementary school.
The other end of the football field in between the
It's,
elementary and the
yeah, it's
football
between
field.
the elementary school parking lot and the
Football field.
football field.
Thank you. And just for those who may not be aware of the UC Health project that we have, it's going to be an outdoor gym where anyone in our city can utilize it, and you use your own weight to kind of work out and just stay healthy. It was a part of something that council felt was necessary. We had some We Thrive stats that came out, and we want to be healthy. We want to stay healthy, and I think this is an excellent opportunity for our city. Really quickly.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I guess I'm a little confused. The city applied for the grant, but we're going to put it on school property?
It's green space, and we don't necessarily, I don't necessarily understand. I thought it was. it's
Madam
in the
Chair.
agreement that we looked
Yes,
at,
Madam
that
Mayor.
we
It
could-
was, Ms. Zorb, if you recall, you probably don't then, it was the land swap. And during the land swap, the school district, part of the swap was they were to use it for community resources or community programs or, I can't get the word out that I'm looking for, but it had to be used for public use. It's in the actual land swap.
I understand all of that, except back to my original statement. The city applied for the grant, but we applied for the grant and we're putting it on school property.
That has to be used for public use. It was part of the land swap when the school district and the city swapped those two
But
lands.
it is school property.
It is, but
Well, I-
part of the agreement with the school district was that it should be used for public use.
So,
But the
Madam-
But if you
people,
were-
the grant people understand that it's not city property.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
That's why we had to speak with the school district in order to get their buy-in with it.
So, Madam Chair.
Yes.
So it's a shared use agreement, something
Yes.
like that, yeah. So, and it's similar to the playground, which is right next to it. There's certain elements that the school maintains, there's certain elements that the city maintains, so it's something similar. It's a shared.
They
Except
use
that-
it during the
Except
day.
the park is city-owned.
Yes.
Ultimately, the city owns it. This, ultimately, the school owns.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification, Ms. Zorb. Moving on, and we'll make sure that we keep an eye out on all of these projects going forward, but we also have the 1500th West Galbraith Road project or building, and there is a meeting that is coming up in the coming days. Ms. Dukestein, is there an update on the appraisal or not yet?
So the appraisal was completed 1/23/2026. I got the documents to support that appraisal over to the company that did it. I can't think of the name right now, but it's so he said that there would be 2 to 3 weeks before he would give us a report. I did call him both Friday and today. He had some personal things going on per the company. They told me that. So I haven't gotten the report yet, but they said that they would give him an email. And then with the 1500, I think that we need to decide how we're going to allow the auxiliary groups to retrieve their items.
Agreed.
Because if we're not going, I was pausing from my standpoint because it's going to cost us to allow them to go in. So rather than us have a separate cost as a city, I was hoping that we could have one big cost, but being that we had not moved in that direction, we have to figure out how we can move forward with a cost to allow them to retrieve their belongings.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
you
ma'am.
mentioned a meeting in the
Mhm.
next couple of days.
Mm-hmm.
next week, the 20th.
Oh, okay. I thought it was something different. I'm sorry.
Okay, so I want to make sure that citizens had some of the things that they wanted to talk about addressed this evening. So I have one piece of business that I would like to parking lot, if that's okay. Mr. Davis also wanted to talk about Metro, but I will give more space to that at our next meeting. Mr. Davis, if that's all right with you?
That's fine.
I do have
Okay.
an update on the grants.
Okay.
So I looked into the grants that Mr. Davis sent, and Mayor did have an interview with Metro on the upcoming work in NCH. And then the grants that Mr. Davis sent through via email today, they have to be used on existing, already in place things.
Okay.
And it says that on the outline of how you can use the grant. So what I'm going to have the city do is to assess all of the spaces where we have existing Metro stops and see if there's any way we can apply or use. They have to be within 3/4 of a mile to make sure that those spaces are clear and safe.
Awesome. Sounds good. If anybody's interested in the committee, I do have a printout if you guys want to look at it and read over it. Mr. Davis sent it to me. Okay, and so I do have one resident that would like to speak, and that is Miss Donna Bruner. If you would come up to the mic and talk to us. Thank you for being here.
Hey, everybody. Well, I'm here on behalf.
Miss Bruner, you have 3 minutes.
Okay. Hello, I'm here on behalf of Rethrive. Tracy, you know we love Rethrive, right? The funds, we get these good funds with Rethrive. So I'm here because on Rethrive, what was it? January 22nd, we had a Rethrive meeting. But before that, December the 10th, I had this bright idea for this mini pantry going on. So I talked with LaTanya and I talked with Miss Clear about it. And, you know, time went on and we really didn't bring it up much. So I called the Rethrive director, Maddie, and she said, well, Ms. Bruner, I could see what I could do. So our next Rethrive meeting was February the, what was it? Was it? No. January 22nd. And she said, Ms. Bruner, we have funds. And I said, oh, we have funds. She said, yes. And the grant has to be in by February 16th. I don't know if Ms. Dukestein got this information, but I would love to sit you down and go over what Ms. Cheshire and Ms. Clear came up with, if you hadn't seen it yet, because I know you hadn't been in the loop, and this stuff went really fast. From the time I brought the situation up to the time the grant came, and I'm like, wow, this moved pretty fast. So can we set up a time and date so you could so I can show you what we're working with and everything, see what's going on. And another thing, North College Hill Beautification and Activities Committee, we're small but mighty, and we would love to volunteer for whatever Ms. Gaston has going on. And thank you, Ms. Dukestein, for the shout out for Girls on the Run for North College Hill Elementary School from grades 3 to 4. So if anybody have any children in North College Hill High School or churches or in the community that would love to participate in Girls on the Run, check out the website, North College Hill website.
Awesome.
What else I'm missing?
Ms. Bruner, are you one of the runners in Girls on the Run?
Well, I signed up for assistant coach, and
30
they
seconds.
said that Girls on the Run did not have a coach here since 2022, so I took on the task.
My daughter was in Girls on the Run
Really?
a long time ago.
A long time ago.
Long
I have
time
a
ago.
junior student coming back to junior
Okay.
coach with me.
And I have one more question for you.
Mhm.
What type of pantry? Is it a food pantry?
Well, it's a small mini pantry. Is
Oh,
The magazine boxes.
I was,
Go ahead.
is magazine boxes, that's what we're repurposing?
Yes, and I picked up one, and I have 3 others I want to pick up, but I want to talk to Ms. Dukestein first to see where we can go with this and see how far, and we have to come up with location, and we just ironing out the details at this point.
Okay.
And I know things
Ms.
went
Bruner?
really fast. Miss Dukestein, when we came to the next meeting, she was like, Miss Bruner, I have a grant for you. And I was like, wow, I didn't expect that to come that fast. So I'm going to go over all the details with you, and I'm going to show you all the pictures
Generally.
and what we need to do to go forward.
Thank you, Ms. Bruner.
And if anybody want to join North College Hill Beautifications and Activities Committee, just reach out. We small but mighty, and we do good things in North College Hill.
Can you give your information so they can reach out?
Oh, that's the email address, North College Hill Beautification and Activities Committee @gmail.com.
That's the email address?
No,
This is-
BAAC.
Oh, okay.
North College Hill back. North College Hill BAAC
Oh, okay.
at gmail.com.
Okay.
I said, it better not be them 19 words.
Alrighty.
Better spell it correctly.
Yeah, right.
I don't know where it's going to end up.
Well, thank you, Ms. Bruner. And number 8 on our agenda was the new youth program in North College Hill, but she already did that shout out, so thank you for that. I do have one piece of old business, and I actually got notification about this from a citizen that the Isaac Moore Way sign is now up. So that is awesome. If you guys haven't driven past it yet, it is up. I do have a question. If we wanted to do like a ceremony or something like that, is that something that is still possible, or is that in the works?
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
this is what I believe that bullet on the rules and public policy is for memorials.
Well, I
Not like giant city events, but it's
I
like,
looked it up, and that's why I was able to say it is this and that.
It's
Okay.
both.
Madam Chair, I think we should reach out to Ambria.
Okay.
She did text me today. but
Awesome.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, look forward to that. Does anybody have any new business?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Orb.
can I throw some new business out there? So, kind of along the line, I just had this like brainstorming session, kind of like spitballing an idea to kind of piggyback on our recycling. I want to do like for lack of a better term, again, still, this is in a very new stage. I want to do a junk car recycling thing. We have a lot of citizens that have junk cars sitting in their driveway, and they've been in their driveway or backyard or wherever for years and years and years. And I want to see if we can partner with like a tow truck company and like Goodwill or some organization that'll buy them back, and see if we can do some kind of cleanup of getting rid of some of the junk cars that we have sitting around NCH. So
Okay.
it's very, very beginning stages.
Madam Chair, or Madam Chair.
Yes.
So
16.
junk cars and the Goodwill, you can take the cars up there, and they'll give you a receipt for a donation. People pay for junk cars all the time. I would err with a lot of caution for us to enter into a contract with one particular tow truck company, because there are state laws around how we have to do business with tow truck companies. They have a whole organization that kind of sets that for us. What we could do to help and create room for people to have knowledge of how they can go about it is advertise what they can do, and then they can choose the tow truck company on their own. So, yeah.
Okay.
And
thank
then
you.
I have another new business, if you will allow me.
Yes. Well, thank you for bringing that up, and I'll put that on the agenda for our next committee. If you want to join or send me the information, that'd be great, and we can work together on doing that initiative.
Awesome, thank you.
No problem. Ms. Dickstein.
So I know that this is it's new business,
Mhm.
and it's, sorry, I lost my paperwork. Okay, sorry. So, we talked about this, and you asked me about the parking lot, but it's not quite recreational, but you did ask. And that was, we don't have any violations that say that you can't have an entryway both ways. I don't want to be presumptuous. However, the new business that has an entryway one way has 3 ways that they can enter. There's one on the back, there's one on the side, and there's one on the front. And so that is what our building and code zoning approved for. If you go in through Family Dollar, you can get in there that way. If you go in through the back way, you can get in there, and it's all accessible to multiple parking lots. I can't think of another business with the exception of Scully's, which they are no longer Scally's. Yeah.
Ms. Dukeston,
There-
if you don't mind, I vaguely remember this conversation. I don't think I asked it, but can you clarify what business we're speaking about?
You asked if I could look into parking lots that have only an entrance and an exit at the same juncture.
Mm-hmm.
And unless I have my notes wrong, I wrote your name by the question.
No, I just didn't remember exactly which one we were talking about.
Okay. And so we only have 2 businesses that actually fit that category.
Mm-hmm.
And one is a commercial, they enter in both ways, commercial truck, and then they have a very uniform process at which they exit them and enter them so that no one crashes. And then the other one is a business that has multiple entrances and exits, and you can go in both ways, and that was approved by our BZA.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for bringing that back
And
to the
then
table.
This two things is the sidewalk snow removal. I know Ms. Zor brought that up in the last council meeting. That was repealed in 2025. The city is not responsible for sidewalks.
It was repealed in 2015.
I'm
not
sorry,
2025.
you're right, 2015. Right, repeal, wrong year. So the city is not responsible. And I would caution council for making the city responsible for sidewalks because we do not have the manpower or the ability financially to remediate that. That would be huge for us. And then that's it.
Alrighty. Well, thank you for sharing that. And at this time, I don't have anything else. So we will adjourn at 7:36.
Next meeting, it is 7:37.
Okay.
And we will confirm that everyone is here.
Thanks, Ms. Dorp.
I apologize, I did not get the minutes emailed out in time. I promise to have them for our next meeting. First up tonight, we will have the monthly finance reports. Ms. Stevens-Knott, are you presenting those for us, please?
I am.
Thank you.
So the packet has all of the normal, and this is as of the end of the year. So these are our end of the year banking accounts, end of the year reconciliation. You will see a entry that was not entered into which is my payroll entry because I was learning how to close Civica or Authority Finance this year. So that's an entry that has to be put in, but it wasn't put in when it needed to be. So that's why that's a large reconciling entry. Outstanding check report, which lists all the checks that have not cleared. The Acme check is being reissued. We have a call out to JMA to find out what happened to it, because we know that we owe it and we don't know where they've done with it. So we're confirming whether or not they want us to reissue, if they want to keep looking. Then Carter's towing that particular check. We do have a fraud protection component on our account, and Fifth Third doesn't always tell each of their branches how to process checks that are a part of the Positive Pay program. So they have the check, but they've got to go to the bank and do something with their banker, tell them how to enter it, and then it'll clear. Bank statements for all of our accounts. And then our final fund report is in the back for the year. These are our ending fund balances for each account. These are the numbers that will be added or updated on our annual budget, which had to be sent down to the county to confirm for our blanket certificate of expenses. You do have to update the actual ending fund balances, which then confirms the beginning fund balances for the new year. And
Excuse me, Ms. Stevens, could I interrupt you real quick?
Of
I'm
course.
sorry. With regards to the Fifth Third documents, when we go into the second sheet that lists the withdrawals and debits, without that description, it's not very helpful. And I know, but there's the account number is on the same line.
it's more than that. It's so one of the reasons that this information is redacted is because it doesn't just have account numbers. It has names of vendors. It has our account numbers with those vendors. It's details that I am uncomfortable having this as being public record. That means that if someone sees a large amount for said vendor, it has our account number associated with it, they could easily go to said vendor. They have enough information to potentially create a fraud situation, which then puts us in jeopardy and our resources in jeopardy. I'm uncomfortable sharing that level of detail when we're moving large dollars back and forth.
So I guess where I'm going with this is if the rest of the committee is okay, I don't know that I don't find any value in this part. So I'm almost going to say you don't have to give it to us unless the rest of.
So the reason that it is provided, though, I think it's a value because it does.
Please help me then.
No problem.
Tell me what to look for.
So the month-to-date bank report, which is the first sheet, has an ending balance that then reconciles to it is on the bank reconciliation. Okay. So what I could put any number in there. So what I would be looking at is I'm looking at the bank reconciliation balance per book, and I'm looking to see that the balance that's on here matches the actual bank statement. That is the value of that, to make sure that the number that you're getting is actually what was in the bank, that I'm reconciling to the bank, not reconciling to my hopes.
Madam
I
Chair.
can roll with that. Thank you. Yes, Ms. Curitan.
So thank you for clarifying that, because actually, I'm just looking at a bunch of numbers with no description, no idea what the city has spent. So subsequently, it causes members of this committee to ask questions. When I see 57-217-83, what was that? When I see 122-677-92, what was that? So those are the kind of questions or maybe information that we would need from a high level perspective. But just to have a report with tons of numbers, with no descriptions, no idea. So if you want to provide us with this, then I would say it might also be necessary, and be prepared, that we would come back and ask you questions to get better clarification on the expenditures that you've listed here for checks. In addition to that, I want to speak and maybe suggest, I know that everyone is concerned with fraud, but I do believe that every bank, especially Fifth Third, will have policies and procedures in place.
However, just literally.
Let me finish. Let me finish.
Go ahead.
They will have a business banker that is assigned to our portfolio. So I would recommend that if you don't have that relationship, and I'm not saying that you don't, I'm just saying that if there needs to be extra layers, and I know Ms. Dukestein has talked about how she's spoken to other other counterparts, other city administrators. Maybe let's look and see how other cities are. Let me cautious myself not to say that. Maybe there's a better way that we can receive this information so it's just not missing the key components that we need. I don't need a bank statement just has a bunch of numbers and tons of redactions. It doesn't serve me a purpose to serve the constituents.
So the first thing I would like to speak to is we have a very good relationship with our business banker, and the reason that we put the fraud protection in place is because we had a check washing situation literally within the last 90 days. And because we have a good relationship with our bank, they noticed that there was an issue, but we literally had about $6,000 worth of checks that got washed, and I don't, do we know what washing means?
Yeah.
Okay, so luckily, we had someone looking out on our behalf. So that information, so we weren't out of it. It was a royal pain in the butt to ratify, navigate, but it was still a pain. Second of all, as it relates to information, I would say at a high level that the information that you are concerned with would render the fund reporting of what are we spending through our funds. You can always ask details. My understanding is that expenses less than $75,000 is not an expense that needs to be explained, but you could always ask. I would also say that because of how our accounts are set up, we have this thing called a sweep, which means there's a lot of transactions of money literally just going back and forth between our bank accounts, especially as it relates to payroll. Those details, to me, are ambiguous. They oftentimes cause more questions than answers. But at the high level, what's your payroll for the month? I can tell you that we run about a $312,000 payroll on a monthly basis. And you see that in the expenses on the fund report. You also get some insight in your budgets. And so, but again, my thought around the bank statements, and if you don't want them, that's fine. I don't have to provide them. Because we do so many transactions electronically, the bank on the bank statements has to provide the details connected to these electronic transactions, and it leaves us vulnerable if we have all these numbers out there. Will we get our money back? Of course, but I don't have time to keep chasing down fraud when I've literally opened up the door and said, hey, come on in. So this is my way of, for the city, is hoping to close the door on fraud.
Sure. One more piece
Madam
of information on that. I just want to clarify one statement you made. Anything over 75,000 doesn't have to be explained. I just wanted to clarify that for you. Our city administrator has a threshold to spend up to 75,000 without the approval from council, but council still has the ability to question anything regarding the city's finances. It could be 10 cents, and I would never, but if there are any questionable numbers that are not clear for the city's money, that information, I would hope that you would be open to it, even if it is under 75,000. So I just wanted to clarify that statement.
So I would also like to clarify that what my statement was is I believe, and then I said, but you are always, I will answer whatever questions that are presented.
Okay,
I
thanks.
ended the statement with that.
Okay, good.
So yeah, I don't have a problem answering, but providing it in an open forum constantly and consistently making this information available is to me not good practice in order to protect the assets of the city.
Absolutely, yeah, thank you.
Also, and then my final report, so the combined fund report for the end of the year, these are the numbers that will go down to the county to be updated on our 2026 budget. And then I was asked regarding the We Thrive, and so I did provide that data based on the information that I had. So I would like to add a caveat to this report, I guess to say a caveat. Currently, the fund is named We Thrive. I think, well, I know oftentimes when we are engaging in new activities, we think a little narrowly as it relates to naming things. So this particular fund was created primarily or initially just for the ReThrive grants. And then over time, we realized, hey, we want to apply for other grants. It's logical to put them all in the same place in order to be able to manage the dollars because they're all around the same idea of how we're spending the dollars. However, you cannot just simply change the name of a fund once you have given that information to the county. So the request was, how much do we have of the We Thrive grant, what has been spent, and what is still available? And so what I provided was the actual grant itself, which was the $15,000, and then the things that were spent against it based on the information that's available around the We Thrive grants. Prior to my coming, we would spend things and not necessarily identify it in the system as being something directly for said grant. And so there was a process of literally going through our GL and say, okay, the We Thrive grant can go for this, 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 and this. Where did we spend the money for that? Oh, we spent it here, 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 and here. And so these items are what were specifically for that. I added the grant connected to the bike racks because we got a grant specifically from Hamilton County for bike racks, but it didn't pay for all of the bike racks. And the We Thrive grant is available to go towards bike racks. So the reason that there's a discrepancy in the Fund 240 and this report is because the fund has all the grants in it, whereas this report is simply about the We Thrive grant.
Sure. Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Kirk.
is there a way to differentiate them based on the year that we were granted that, the grants? So I know that there were some grants that the city received for We Thrive in 2025 and then 2024 and.
I don't know that there was grants that we received in 2025 that were We Thrive, and I'm not saying we didn't, but it currently was not identified. It wasn't received during my tenure, and so it currently was not identified in the system as a We Thrive grant.
Okay, so not looking back historically, and I'm sure that with the parties who particularly worked on that grant, I'm sure, and excuse me, Madam Chair, thank you. Those parties who worked on that grant, I'm sure they can determine the exact date of that funding of that grant, what the city received. But I'm thinking in order to move forward to correct it, is there a way? So if everything is being lumped into the same bucket 240, the fund 240, that's great. But if we get something in 2026 and versus 2027 and 2028, what is your what would be the determining factor to know if this was for traffic calming, if this was for recycling, if this was for ABC 1, 2, 3?
So the plan going forward is to make use of the protocol inside of our software system that is called projects. So we can have one fund, which I actually plan to rename it in 2026. So we can have one fund for the grants, and then inside of that fund, you can identify them based on projects. And that is the plan going forward.
So, just so I'm clear what you just said, because I work for a nonprofit and we get grants all the time, and they're very strict about
Very strict.
this is the grant and this is what you're going to spend it on. So I was really confused when I heard there were multiple grants in the same fund. I thought, oh my gosh, it sounds like a nightmare. So
It is.
so when you say use the term projects, to us, that's going to equate to a different grant.
Yes.
Is that
Yes, that's correct. So what we will have is we'll have a fund that's called grants. I'm sure it's going, I mean, that's just today, that's the name, but it'll be a grant fund. And inside of that, every time we get one, it will get a project number. Okay. When it gets that project number, every time there's an expense or dollars associated with it, when those transactions go in the system, it will be associated with that project number. Is at that time, then I can run a report from the beginning to the end, whether it's in 2026, 2027, 2085, connected to that number, and it will pull all expenses and all revenues. And then we have a real grant report, which also makes reporting back to the grantor a lot easier.
and I bet they want that.
Chair.
Yes, Ms. Steukstein.
So I think that had a lot to do prior with the training that was available and the software. If you will remember, that is a new software to the city. And Ms. Shiva Stevens-Knott and I went through a different training to help kind of clear that up. And those were questions or confusion when we were looking at how we had done it in the past. Like, we went in knowledgeable, like, hey, this is a bucket that we don't like. How do we fix that? And then I wanted to circle back. I had actually called your name, but the conversation was still flowing, so I just let go. But the reports that Ms. Shiva Stevens-Knott is providing to you all with the amounts listed so that you can match the number of the debits that are coming out of the account. I'm not sure why you guys don't see the usefulness of it, because you should. You should be able to, that is tangible information, even if you don't have the vendors and all of the things that are attached to that, to see that those are not empty numbers. That's actually statements from the bank telling you that these check amounts hit, or these debits hit the account. And so that we're not just pumping you with empty numbers. Just because you don't have the names doesn't necessarily mean that it isn't valuable information. And then I would also say that having endured what we had to endure to have our checks washed and all of the things that had to be transferred in order to make sure that we didn't fall into that situation again was a lot for us. And you take for granted that this is public information, and that people who are criminal-minded or focused, they're taking this piece of information and this piece of information and putting it together to create a circumstance that is not so secure for our city. And we do have a responsibility to protect ourselves in that way. And so I would say that not only does our bank discourage that, even the state has restrictions. Yes, you can ask for it on an individual basis, but to put that out in a report on lump sum of information is dangerous to us. And then the last and final thing that I would just clarify is that I don't think Ms. Shiva Stevens-Knott or myself is not wanting to give you a report on whatever the spendings are. That's why those amounts are there. But it is a reason why the charter designates $75,000. If it's in the budget, I honestly haven't spent, or we haven't embarked to spend anything over $75,000 or even close to that isn't in the budget. I can't even think of anything that I've bought even close to that or approved that wasn't in the budget. I stick very, very close to the budget.
Ms. Steukstein, I don't think anyone's doing it. There's no accusations in this. It's just it's a clarification. I say we, but I was speaking for myself. I just needed a better understanding of what I'm supposed to look for in this, and knowing that it's just the final number at the bottom, and then the cross-reference to the other numbers. I'm okay with that. So I think we're okay moving forward, committee? Yes?
Yeah, I just have one additional question regarding the fund balance report. And it is on page 15, actually pages 15 and 16. And I wanted to clarify if I'm reading this correctly. Still talking about We Thrive grant and still talking about Fund 240. I see that there are two lines representing it. I see there's a month to date and then a year to date. Both numbers show unencumbered 288502.
Unexpensed. Oh, yeah, unencumbered balance. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yep.
You go ahead.
Yep. So I wanted to confirm, are we suggesting that it's 288502 or are we saying 577004? Because the number on page 16 also shows there is a We Thrive grant balance of 4679.25. So I
Okay,
see three different
So
numbers.
I clarified earlier.
It wasn't clear for me. That's
Okay.
what I'm asking.
So, yeah, so the Fund 240, I would say Fund 240 is a grant fund that shows all grants that have been
Put in that category.
received, and this particular report is only for 2025. Okay, so the month to date, year to date, and I'm not being facetious. So this is only 2025 dollars that have gone through Fund 240, which are grants. Some of it's We Thrive, others is Hamilton County Public Health. There's a lot of different things that have gone through there. But your request was about the We Thrive grant specifically, which was received in 2023. That would not appear on the 2025 year-to-date, month-to-date fund report because we are not an accrual city. We do all of our things cash basis, which means expenses get recorded when they happen, not when they're supposed to happen. Revenue gets recorded when we receive it, not when we spend it. Now, that doesn't change the requirements of the grantor. So the grantor, actually the AARP, the ARPA grant is another example of this. You get a lump sum of money. They tell you that you have 6 years to spend it, but our reporting will never show on a monthly or yearly basis the 6 years of spending.
Right.
It would always show the current year because we're a cash basis. So these numbers won't match because the grant itself had an extended period of time that it could be expensed.
I think you're saying something different from versus what I'm asking. So let's.
You're asking why there's different numbers, correct?
That's not correct.
Oh,
So
then
what
yeah,
I'm
then
looking
you're correct.
at, if you
I
have this
don't-
report, do you have a copy of this report in
Yes,
front
I
of you?
do.
If you look at page 15, at the very top, it says Fund 240, and in the final column, unencumbered, 2885.02. Are we on the same page?
Right.
Okay. If you go to the very next page, and just for clarification, this is referencing 2025 only, December of 2025. If you go to the next page, it says, and I understand all of the grants are in this bucket, it says We Thrive grant balance, 4679.25.
She there versus.
Right, okay, so, but, okay. Your question again is why does the balance on the combined fund report not equal the balance on the We Thrive report that I created?
No. Maybe we should talk
Sure,
offline
abs-
because, yeah,
Okay, so I'm sorry. I just want to show her because she's looking at the.
No
documents.
problem. and we can actually come back so we can continue with our agenda in respective time.
Please. Thank you.
She's saying this is
Unencumbered.
right there,
Which is this?
and then she's saying this.
But these don't. That's what's, yeah, it's not just because it's multiple things, it's because I'm only reporting on the We Thrive grants here, the $15,000 only. I'm not reporting on all the other things. So there are other expenses that are in 240 that don't have anything to do with the We Thrive grants.
It's clear.
That are
So that's why, what, no, this unencumbered is of all of the grants that we've received in 2025 only, there's $2,885.02 that was still available of only 2025. Whereas the We Thrive grant, and actually this might not be 100% accurate. It's based on what I was able to.
Sure.
No, it's only based
yeah.
on the expenses that I was able to find
Sure.
that specifically stated We Thrive. We might find more.
Right.
Because again, you made a request, and
Right.
I did not want this to continue to linger, and I did not want there to be a thought that I was not being due diligent about getting you the information.
Sure.
So the reason that they're different is because what I'm trying to report on here is answer the question of the We Thrive grant specifically
Sure.
that was received in 2023, and that we're trying to see how much is still, if there's any still left at all.
Sure. Madam Chair, I would just recommend that we will table this, allow Mrs. Stevens not to get as much accurate information as she possibly can. It might not be within a threshold that our committee needs, but just to allow her the space and the opportunity to gather it as accurately as possible so that we can do what we're called to do, if that's okay with you all. Thank you.
I'd love to move on. Thank you. All right. So next on our agenda is we have the cleanup ordinance.
Yay!
Yeah.
So what you have here is just a listing of the reappropriations. One thing that we're super excited about is that we did not go over budget by the end of the year. So there is no need. We did not need to ask for more money, basically from the general fund to cover expenses in the general fund. We simply needed to move some numbers around from departments.
Okay, so this is one of those times where you get a book and you just want to read the last chapter.
I know.
I spent 3 hours on this, and then I read that last line. I'm like, well, dang. Okay. So can I, which is good news,
It is.
Right?
It is really good news.
but
But
I
there-
do have questions. though.
That's fine.
All right. I have a lot of questions.
Okay.
So I'm sorry. So let's start with the police, the 101, 101.
Mm-hmm.
So the way I understand this, and please stop me whenever I get off the rails. So it looks like we under budgeted almost $260,000 for police salaries,
Correct.
and we under budgeted another 100,000 in police overtime salaries.
Correct.
So total, we under budgeted $360,000 for police,
Correct.
on top of their $2 million that they already had. All right, you don't have to say correct again.
Well, I would say that we put the money. Well, no, it's correct. Yes.
All right. But it looks like you were able to find all that money within.
Other
The police.
departments.
Yeah. Okay.
I can I can explain some of that. So I don't know if you remember that coming into 2020.
Is this the whole 12-hour thing? No? Sorry.
No, that is part of it.
That's definitely part of it.
And then the other part of it is, if you will remember, we were supposed to scale back on the overtime. But I know for me, I didn't have foresight to know that they were giving them 4 hours overtime at that time, like that they were doing it that way, even though we had historically been doing that since Sharan. But that 12 hours, so that put our overtime number up hugely.
Yeah.
And we had said as we get staffed, that would cut down. And so that growth wasn't foreseen because the scheduling was not done right either, because it should have been up through 86 hours. We don't have to give or pay overtime per a state thing. So we probably shouldn't have been paying overtime, but that had been happening for years.
So what about the other, for the regular time, the 260,000? I'm curious why that's so under budgeted, and yet I seem to recall interim Chief Cheney saying we weren't fully staffed. So I guess I'm really confused how that,
Got out of whack.
yeah.
So I would have to offer that I believe that the process that was used to forecast salaries might have been a little out of whack. One thing that we did going forward is that we identified police officers that would be on the levy and pulled them off the city.
Yes.
We identified the scheduling issue. I don't think that the office had insight or chose to get insight into the scheduling. And so we now have insight into that so that it's not just being managed by the police, that there's some oversight there that I don't think was there.
Can I back you up a little bit? So what criteria was used to pull individual, or whatever, I don't want to use the wrong terminology, but to pull folks off of the general fund and move them to levy? What criteria was used for that?
The levy.
Yeah, it's like we look at the levy, we see how much is there, and we're gonna use it. If you look at that particular fund, you'll see that there was incredible amounts of carryover from year to year to year, which means that they weren't using the levy money.
And the other thing is they had an attitude which we had to reset. If we don't use it, we lose it. So there would be a big, like, let's spend it up at the end of the year.
On weird things,
Yes.
not on humans.
Change the narrative,
Yeah.
like the perspective, so that they don't move like that, so that they move on a balanced budget that they feel taken care of, as opposed to not. And I would also, these numbers came from the heads of the departments project those numbers, and then they should be checked by finance based on historically what we've done. And I don't know if you guys know, we didn't have a lot of historical stuff because we had also changed over to software, so it just was a miss.
But when we know better, we do better.
Absolutely. Yeah.
When we know better, we do better. So,
So does that contribute to the 209,000 that goes to the pension?
pension, yeah,
So
because if
it's
there's more
it's a
money,
direct correlation.
oh, a direct correlation.
Okay.
Yeah, because more money, that means there's more match.
Right. Does anyone else have any questions about the
Clean up.
police part?
No, ma'am.
That's my next one. So I had a question about, now we're going down to Fire 102.
Mm-hmm.
It says salaries full-time professional, and it says that you return 29,000. But my question is, when
Mm-hmm.
you already know what I'm going to say.
Mhm.
You want to answer for me?
I can. So those dollars should not have been in that line item because the city pays for the part-time firefighters and the levy pays for the full-time firefighters. So, but that's the line item that it was put on. So that's the line item I took it back from.
Fair enough. Okay. Now, let's go down to code enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
So it's 401.
Yep.
So what I did was I went to the city website and I printed out a copy of the budget that was passed, straight from our legislation document. And I don't see a salary for code enforcement on the budget that was passed,
For 2025 or 24?
2025.
Ms. Zorb,
Yes, Ms. Cass.
what did you pull again?
I don't think I printed out the ordinance number. It's the
2025
2020.
salary ordinance?
It was passed in 2024, but it's the 2025 budget, yes.
Okay.
Budget.
Right, so wait, you're looking at 2025 budget, right?
Yes.
And you're saying you're not seeing a salary in 2025 for the code enforcement person, correct? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying I'm looking at the budget and I don't see a salary for the code enforcement
In 2025?
in the 2025 budget, yes.
Ms. Zorb, was it in fire?
It should have been.
It should have been in
because
fire.
Remember, we moved it.
So, okay, granted, but this, so, Ms. Stevens not. So this the cleanup ordinance says, and I don't know if this is a typo,
Yeah,
but it
so
doesn't show that that's a negative number.
No,
but-
that 16 should be appropriated, because I just looked at it. The 79 should be appropriated. It should be,
So
the
they should be
column
over in
over.
the,
yes. So we moved the dollars
that helps.
we moved the dollars out of contracted. But yes, you are accurate. Because, yeah, I saw that. I said, oh, that's an error. But there were contract service dollars in Department 401. And so we were able, so when he was hired, because he's not under fire, because he can't go under fire,
Right.
because the prior code enforcement person was a part of fire. And so we had to move him into his own department and then move that money around a little bit.
Okay.
So that would be corrected.
And we had not hired for the vacancy in 2024 going into 2025. He got hired in April, so there wouldn't have been a move of the budget. And at that time, we were still determining whether or not we were going to get somebody from fire to do so.
But did we appropriate the money somewhere?
It's right here. So what she's saying is she's taking it out of the code enforcement, the contracted services, and moving it here to cover for the negative pay for him in 2025. But in 2026, we have created his own line items.
So what I'm saying is,
I don't believe
in the
so.
2025 budget, there is no
was not a
line item
human.
It was
that's,
not. I don't believe it was.
No.
so we never created a salary line item in the budget in 2025
No.
for the code enforcement
Right,
officer.
correct.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Curitan.
I just wanted to confirm the seasonal employee. Is there, how many employees are in code enforcement?
One.
One. And are there ever any seasonal PRN work that the city contracts through even a different agency
No.
that's represented in our budget?
Oh, wait, yes, I'm sorry. Our building inspector is contracted. That's-
But he's not under the code enforcement budget.
Building
So there's a
No,
building.
Yeah, so no, there isn't any contracted services there. If we wanted to get like a second opinion outside of the city on the same matter, we could do so.
Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I'm not trying to monopolize this whole time. Does anyone else have any questions about this while I flip through to my next section?
To clarify, I do, Madam Chair. To clarify, Fund 500's street and traffic lighting, is that the LED project with Duke?
No, but that is like the stoplights, like when they go down, when they need service. That's the actual street lights and traffic lighting costs, and all the things that it takes to run that. The LED light, I do have an update if we want to save it to new business.
Yes, please, let's save that.
Can you clarify when this $80,000 was expended?
It wasn't.
It was not yet.
There was nothing that was expended out of Department 500 because those things were double budgeted elsewhere. So the city did not have to pay for those things. Those things were paid for by the levy, actually. Like garbage collection should not be there because garbage collection is paid for by garbage collection. So
Ms. Stevens, I see in your department, it's the CMI software.
Mm-hmm.
So that was $40,000 additional that we hadn't budgeted for?
Apparently not. It was not.
That's hard to
So
believe we didn't budget for that.
and it's two pieces. Let me see. In Department 70, where are we at?
704?
Yeah, I was like, where are we at? Computer software and fees. Because it was all of authority finance and authority payroll, so you have both of them. And they were not in, when I go back and look at the notes, they were not in there. And I think if I remember correctly, there was a change. It was pretty abrupt. Like, I know the payroll system, there was no plan to go with authority payroll. It happened very fast, like in December. We're not going to be with Paycor anymore. We're going with Civica. So that was a $25,000 implementation, just them. And then, and then for Civica, all of the training was an extra cost. But when I look at the notes, it's not there.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Dukestein.
I don't know if you remember where we got news of the audit, and part of that issue was a Paycor issue. We don't want to go with a company continually that cost us an audit with the IRS. So that was some of it. Now, that decision was made before I came in, but I'm just explaining what I think was the theory there. I don't know. And some of this stuff was, and it's not in defense, but I'll just put it out there. What may have been obvious to Ms. Shiva Stevens-Knott and what was how somebody else put it in there. So what I will commend Ms. Shiva Stevens-Knott for doing is putting really, really good notes in there. So her thought process, because you're coming behind someone else and their thought process, how to budget something. Sometimes it's overtly obvious and then other times it's not. But the measurement is that we did not actually have to go back to the general fund so there were things that were budgeted in that 2025 budget that did not take us over. So it holds a true account of we captured everything somewhere, but how does it process out is different in different line items and how people think about things.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Curitan.
Mrs. Stevens-Knott, what fund is 706?
Law Director.
Oh, that's law director. I was like, I had to think for a second. I'm like,
I wrote notes.
Yep, law director. Law director.
No, I heard you. I'm
Oh,
processing
okay.
it. I'm looking at it says a workers' compensation claim, or I'm assuming that's a claim.
No, not a claim. Insurance.
Insurance.
So every employee has the city pays workers' compensation insurance based on their payroll, and so we allocate costs across all departments. That way, one department isn't carrying for everybody the weight of it all. So, since he is an employee, technically he could file a claim. So we want to make sure he's insured properly.
Paper cut?
Yeah, I don't. I don't know.
Sorry. Should have kept that to myself.
Yeah, I was like, that was out loud.
Sorry.
Shock from his computer.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Ms. Curitan.
So, and just don't want to dominate either. So being super new to council and not knowing every fund identifier, is there a way that any report that's provided, can I specify it? Familiar with a few, but not all.
Yeah, we can get a list.
Not
Department
necessarily
list.
a list, but more so inclusive in the report, so that versus me saying, okay, this is 102. Oh, 102. This is 704. Oh, 704. But just having it labeled on the report. If that doesn't add any additional work to your load.
Okay.
Thanks.
I have another question. So in the 799 miscellaneous,
Yes.
can you help me understand what we did for land and land improvement for $180,000?
$799.
$799.
I see
180.
$38,000.
Yeah. Where's 180?
Right, but we had originally budgeted 140. So
Oh.
so together we spent 180, and I'm just wondering what we spent that on.
I don't know. I can go look though. and get that information to you. I don't even
I'm
know
curious.
that. Well, I don't like 799, so that's not a department
Either.
we won't be using that going forward.
It's way too vague for me.
It's a red flag for every auditor on the planet. Anything that's in miscellaneous is a red flag.
Especially the Cobra.
So I would also like to say, just this council group will be in council when we go through this process next year. There are some things that we cannot budget for, but we know that the budget is coming down the pike. For example, an increase in OPERS, because the salaries are looking and shaping up differently than we had thought. And then there is a requirement coming down from the state that we pay a different percentage that we had originally budgeted for. So those are the kind of things we will also be encountering. So when you're asking these questions next year, that'll be like, well, we didn't know that we were going to have those expenses. We couldn't have budgeted for something that we didn't know we were going to get. Another thing is like,
But you already know what the percent increase is going to be for OPERS? You don't? You just know that there's going to be an
yeah,
increase?
there's
Yeah,
still a
it's coming.
negotiation.
Yeah, they're negotiating.
And then also, I don't know, Cindy Abrams talked about the
Property
reduction
tax.
of property tax that will kick into effect. So all of those are like tangible things that we do our best to project the budget, but we won't know.
Yeah.
The reduction, and that reduction is supposed to experience. We're supposed to experience that in 2027, right?
That's what she said when she came to council.
But the big beautiful bill put things in impact like in year. So, those are just things that kind of curveballs that you guys should be aware of as you're educating your fellow council members on the budget process, and things we just can't anticipate for, like that big, huge, he pulled back the taxation on overtime, which caused Ms. Shiva Stevens not a whole bunch of headache as it pertains to W-2s, because it created a whole nother line and something that we had already began taxing on per January through June, and then in July it impacted us very differently. So we paid taxes on it already I'm just saying that there are things that come down the pike. We hope that we can project for it a little better, but sometimes it just doesn't happen that way.
All right, my next question is for Department 701, Mayor and Administration. Medical insurance went up $34,000?
Yes. When I look, I know she's like, that's all you got. That's all you got. I would have to say that when I look at
Nothing changed.
the payroll budget, there were just things not included in the numbers, if that's fair. So,
Like what?
I mean, even if I look at historically, it was even almost doubled from the 2024 number. Like in 2024, it says the actual was like $3,000, and then in 2025 it was $5,500. And now,
I think it's based on who's on the plan and what they're. So you have nobody on the plan, or you have a single on the plan, or then now you have a family on the plan. So those costs, they're going to be very specific for the human that's in position. Case in point, like I don't cost the city anything when it comes to insurance, because I'm on my husband's insurance. And so people prior might not have been on the city's insurance. They might have stayed with their spouse, or didn't cover their children or something of that nature. And then now you have someone on the plan who is on the plan, full family, children. And so those things will definitely increase the cost. I'm not going to pretend to know who was on the plan prior, but I think our insurance went up. We had a 13%, no, it wasn't 13, 11% increase on the premiums. We do the city covers 82% of the health insurance. Yeah, it's a heavy lift. So if you're looking at
is that
family,
is that a law, or is
that's what you all,
that we just want to do?
That's
Because we just love doing that.
it's a perk. health insurance is expensive. And so we as a city, we cover 82% of everyone's health insurance, 90% on public works.
Yeah.
It's 90-10 on public works.
All right.
For funds, Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Curitan.
Fund 702, the 14,975.73.
Mm-hmm.
Can you clarify, provide insight on what that is specifically?
The 14,975.73.
That's correct, for ICRC.
The cost. I
Is
don't.
that the annual cost?
No, that's just how much. So we budgeted. And I can't remember now. We budgeted 100,000. How much?
35,000.
35,000, and we didn't use all of it. So
Got it.
this was how much I was able to pull back. But I also know that's about timing.
Okay.
That was about timing. But I was able to encumber what needed to be encumbered in 2025, so that when that bill came January 2026, it went backwards. So timing is an issue on certain things. I try to get the bills, but if they don't get them in, yeah.
All right, so that is exactly where I wanted to go, to 702 legislative.
Okay.
And so it looks like we needed $5,300 more in part-time legislation on top of the 54,000 that was already there.
For salaries,
Yes, ma'am.
I do believe that's probably because it was based on the old rate, whereas most of the council was on the new rate. There's only
And I don't know if you remember, we already appropriated some funds earlier on. Remember, we appropriated resources earlier through in your budget line, in your line items, when you had the big Iron Mountain thing. So there was
no. She's asking
So
about salaries.
I'm only
I know.
on salary.
She's specifically asking about salaries.
okay.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
So I did some math,
Mm-hmm.
because I have my W-2. I got my W-2, so I know what thank you for that, by the way. I did think that was a scam, so I didn't click on the link. I was safe for a minute. So if council made $5,672 a year, times there were 8 of us, 7 council, 1 president, that's 45,000, give or take. And we budgeted 54,000, and that wasn't even enough. Then there was 5,300 we had to add to that. So I am
There are no benefits.
befuddled why we needed more money in that line item.
I see it.
So everybody, there was two different, and currently there's 2 different rates. Like you're on the new rate now, but the rate you were on was the old rate. And then you have you had 3 that were on the new rate. So the rate you're on now, half the council was on that last year.
Actually, 4 were.
But I
on-
don't think they should have been.
Well, now that I came into.
If I read the charter, they shouldn't have been.
So there was Mike, there was Christian, there was Miss Gaston and Miss Chichester. They came in, they did not vote on it, and they came in after they came into the new rate.
And the charter clearly states unexpired terms, which Mr. Hedger is not an elected official, so I would agree with that. But the rest of those folks were all in an unexpired term. Same with the mayor. The mayor was in an unexpired term. And according to the charter, no one gets a raise while they are in their term or in an unexpired term. Very clearly stated in the charter.
I'm thinking of the documentation, the legislation. That's what you're referring to?
It's just, she's referring to the charter, I'm referring to the documentation.
When you say documentation, you're saying the elected official salary ordinance that was passed.
Yes.
But that cannot supersede the charter. You agree with that?
Yes.
I don't
So-
think I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I don't think Mr. Graver's salary changed. You said his, but I don't believe his changed.
His
because
changed. Oh, his did not?
it
Okay.
shouldn't have. His should have remained the
All of
same.
those were in,
Ms.
I mean,
Zorb should have remained the same.
And it did. Mine did.
I'm not sure what Ms.
But
Gaston
technically
came in.
speaking, if you're saying because you didn't vote on it, I didn't vote on that. I wasn't at that meeting, so I did not vote on it.
It passed.
I understand that, but I did not vote on it. If that's the criteria you're using,
well, I mean, that, I didn't come in, I came into those numbers. I didn't change that. I personally did not change that.
you were the city administrator when that went into effect in the beginning of the year.
No, ma'am.
And that reference council, not mayor, and
They
my
were already
salary.
in 2024.
And the mayor's
No, ma'am.
salary is based off of the commissioners.
Yes, they were. If you look at 2024, those council members were already being paid
When
that.
did you get elected?
She got it in 24. She got it in 24. She got it in 24. He got it in 24. He got it in 24. You look back to 24, they got it in 24.
They shouldn't have.
They got the new rate?
24.
No elected official should have gotten that new rate. None, according to the charter. And I'll stand firm on that. All right, we can move further. I don't know how that gets corrected, but
Madam Chair,
Ms. Curitan.
this does not impact me, but it impacts the city. Pardon
does.
me. So let me clarify. I heard what you said. I heard what you said, excuse me, but I don't hear where we are meeting in the middle. Are we stating that we're going to come back to this topic? Or what's the next, so that it's clear for this committee?
Well, we're already in a new, there are council members that are still on the old salary. They will stay there. And as people are voted in, they will move progressively forward to the new salary.
So you have two people on the old salary.
Yes. And they're staying there.
Ms. Zorb, that's good for you?
It is not.
Miss Shiva, can you tell us who was on the old? Or do you know that off top?
I think you guys,
I know who's on the old.
Yeah.
These, Brandon and Mashallah.
and then Ms. Zorb
And Mr.
was,
Graver.
yep,
Okay.
was.
So Ms. Kirton came in on the new, Ms. Clear came in on the new, Ms. Zorb was voted in.
Everyone
She
who
came
was
in.
recently elected,
Yes.
which would have been Chichester, Clear, Curitan, and Zorb.
And Ms. Gaston.
She wasn't elected.
No.
She
we're
is in
talking
it.
about
She is in an
26.
unexpired term.
I'm referring to 26. You're referring to 25.
Mayor Nichols, can you speak into the mic?
I'm sorry, I was referring to 26, just catching up to 26. You were referring to 25 on the unexpired term on 24. You were,
The years are confusing me. All I know is starting this year in 2026, 4 people should have gotten the raise.
5.
4.
Well, Ms.
The 4 people
Clerk
that
of
were
Council.
newly elected. And so the clerk of council is not an elected position.
Right.
The clerk of council, actually, according to the salary ordinance, the clerk of council gets equivalent to council, which I guess is misleading because now we have 2 pay rates for council.
But
So I
in the
wa-
charter, it does actually describe that would be the case. So like the terms and the way that they are staggered, they're staggered for a reason. And that's always going to be the case every time there's an increase or we have to evaluate for an
Well, it's not
increase.
every time because the last time there was a elected official salary ordinance, we dated it out far enough that everyone who voted on it would be out of office and then it would start. So we timed it appropriately so that everyone would get the same rate at the same time.
Well,
This one was not done that way.
But appropriate is an opinion. That is not how this
Well,
one was
we all
done.
theoretically do the same amount of work, so we should theoretically get the same amount of pay. So yes.
I have a question. Just to clarify, are you stating that you should not have gotten the raise?
I am not stating that.
Okay, because
I am stating that people got the raise
prior to this year, that's what. okay.
prematurely, yes.
Prematurely, okay.
There were several elected positions that got the raise prematurely. That is my opinion.
Several means more than 3.
Yes. The mayor's position was still in it within a term. And then there were council positions that got the raise.
But the ordinance was specific to council. The mayor's salary is based off of the county commissioners, that percentage. So,
I don't understand the distinction. Where are you going with that?
because you're saying the mayor was still, in fact, it's an elected position, but the ordinance, from what I understand, that was written, and I see that you're going back with the charter. The mayor's salary is based off a percentage of the county commissioners.
It says council.
Right. So, I get where you're going with that, but it still doesn't fall in line with how council was paid. Or who got what when. You're saying newly elected, which is why I asked you where you're saying that you shouldn't, because if we play on words, newly means somebody who was never in office, or it could.
So the charter clearly states newly elected, or you cannot, actually it says something to the effect of while you're in office or in an unexpired term. Those
I'll
are the
look at
words.
it. I mean,
Um,
I'll just look at it.
It says council cannot change the pay or affect the pay
Madam Chair,
of someone in that office.
That is correct.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
may I
Ms.
be excused?
Kessler.
I have to leave.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll take a look at it. Do you have anything else?
I do not have anything else for the cleanup ordinance. Does anyone else?
No.
I will make the corrections, code enforcement, to get that where it's supposed to be, because it's in the wrong column, so I will correct that.
Thank you. And
And
so.
is it okay to move that, once she makes that correction and get that in the right column, is it okay to move that with pieces of legislation over to the, I want to make sure that I send it to Bill to draft legislation around it and then send it to council floor?
Actually, that was going to be my next question. Does it need to have legislation if there's no additional appropriations?
Oh, that's true.
Right.
No, you're right. Okay, you're right, because we're not moving money from fund balances, we're moving from line to line. Absolutely, you're right.
So no legislation's needed.
Nope.
All right. The next on the agenda is we have the FOP contract, and according to council rules, we cannot go into executive session to discuss that. But it was sent to all committee members. Please make sure you read up on that, and we will go into executive session during the council meeting, and we'll discuss that in detail there. Is there anything superficially that you would like to add, Ms. Dukestein?
No, I would not about this, but about this process. So I mentioned it in an email, and against my better judgment, I'm gonna just mention it again. I think it's worth saying publicly. The state talks about these committees and outlines these committees for a specific reason as it pertains to municipal committees and how they should operate. I know our charter kind of regurgitates that same ORC information, but just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. Executive sessions are exhausted for exactly this. You're asking this, so you prolong the process when you take away executive session to talk about these kinds of contracts, and it is your requirement that these be seen in committees before they move to council floor. And then we have to go into executive session to talk about these things that should be talking. The whole state distinction for committees are working sessions for council, which is why at the state level, they don't actually allow conversation, and many cities do not. It is up to the distinction of the chair to allow conversation here and there, but these are supposed to be working sessions for you all to work through things, which is why the Ohio Revised Code allows executive sessions for these things. And how that hinders administration is that we have tight deadlines that we can't control, that are not on the side of me trying to push it to you. I started this in July. I've not done one thing to inhibit this process, but there are other factors that have. And so now we're up against time deadlines and an extension of contracts and all of those things that it should not be hindered by an executive session not being allowed in committee. I would ask that you consider that, especially even if you want to change the way that, like, we don't want to abuse executive session, but for things like this that are time sensitive, we definitely, you guys should consider that.
Ms. Dixon, I appreciate your feedback, and we talked about that. I know you weren't in the organizational meeting. We talked about this quite extensively, and part of the reason is that we experienced it last year when we would talk in executive session about, you know, certain confidential situations, and then we would talk about it during committee, but then all of council has to vote on it. So then we'd have to go back into executive session and rehash and hopefully restate everything that was originally stated so that everyone had the same amount of information. And it was repetitive, it was redundant, and it was obviously council as a whole agreed that it was not needed. And I question the point of it adds time to this. I mean, for this particular situation, this FOP contract ended in December of 2025. So I know you said you started in July, but I mean, council's not the one holding this up. That there is a process. So no matter what, there is 3 readings, and the first reading could happen at the next council meeting, which even if we talked about it tonight, it still wouldn't get its first reading till the next council meeting. So I don't see how that. I mean, at some point it is what it is, and so we're just gonna we're gonna move on because
Are
that's.
you then giving me permission to move this to a first reading and then also an executive session? If that's the case, that's fine.
I don't know how else we would talk about it. So yes.
Okay.
All right, next on.
Madam Chair, before we move forward.
Yes,
Just
sorry.
very, very quickly. So just to understand the timing of this, I do agree that we want to reserve executive session for all of council, if all of council is going to vote on it. That just serves due diligence for the citizens and for all of council. But duly, once this passes, everything would retroact to the first date that it passes.
But think about how that
One moment.
impacts.
That wasn't a question. That was more of a statement to clarify. So I definitely would not want my funding held up. But I also want to make sure that we have ample enough time, all of council who's going to vote on it, the opportunity to make sure this best serves the city of North College Hill. I don't want to rush anything. If that's been the past historical process, not anymore. We want to make sure that we fine-tooth comb to ensure there are no loopholes, no, oh, I woulda, shoulda, coulda. We just went through a whole conversation, just 20 minutes of in-depth conversation. So I think we want to move forward and ensure that this best serves our officers and best serves our city, and that council has due diligence. I think that's what you would want for the city as well. Allow us to do that due diligence for anything beyond FOP contract, any contracts that come across that council has to review. That's only fair.
All right,
Yes,
I
but-
would like to move on from this topic. Next is the council chamber nameplates. Have those been ordered yet? Have those?
You have FOP contract, it says old business waste and recycling. Did you modify it?
Yeah,
I did.
Yes.
she did. Yeah, she did modify it.
Yep.
That would be a Jillian question. I gave her everything that she needed to be able to order it.
Okay, so from your perspective, everything's good.
I handed over all of the things that she needs to order it. I don't know if she has ordered it yet.
Okay.
Okay.
I will check in with her. All right, there is one more thing. So the Planning Commission reached out to me, and they requested an allowance to hire a facilitator to conduct a workshop, and they're requesting a not-to-exceed $3,500. Is that something that the committee would like to approve? Can we move that to get the law director to write up an appropriation legislation for council to discuss at a full council meeting?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Chichester.
what's the workshop?
I was like, what's the details?
Oh, so I apologize. I thought you could read my mind.
The
So-
balloons didn't pop up.
They are, so they want to align with what, they have new members, and so they're trying to set up their priorities according to the comprehensive plan, and for all of them to align and get on the same page with what they want to do to move forward. And they are instead of themselves just kind of going back and forth, kind of like we do, they're having an outside facilitator that will kind of streamline them and keep them on track, and that is their request.
Madam Chair.
It's a toss-up. Who wants to go first?
I'll speak from the financial perspective. One thing that is in our that we discussed earlier in policies and procedures is about getting more than one quote. So from a financial perspective, I would make a request that whatever plan is put together, that is put together properly, that there is a logical view of comparison.
I know they have two.
And just, I mean, so that it gets presented in a complete packet. The appropriation piece is negotiable, but I think we also need to make sure that we're being diligent about who we're engaging in business with. And so having the plan written out, this is who it is, this is what it's for, this is what we will be contracting, because that term facilitator and workshop can be very ambiguous, and what the deliverables would be. So I think I would expect those details to be a part of the purchase or request.
Would you be acceptable to, I don't want to be the middleman and
I have no problem.
and misinterpret something.
Mm-hmm.
Could I
Yep,
point them directly to you? Is that acceptable?
definitely.
Thank you.
It just sets the standard for us doing business.
Ms. Chichester, would you like to go next?
I'm good.
Ms. Dixon?
My sentiments the same as Shiva's, like vendor submissions, approval, all of those things.
But from our perspective, we're just looking at the appropriation part,
Mm-hmm.
and then all the fine tuning would come from the finance world.
I think
That's
they
the way I
go
see it.
hand in hand, because you appropriate based on the vendors and making sure that we've got competitive rates based on what the facilitator offers, all of those things. Unless you're just giving them a general $3,500.
It's a not to exceed 3,500, but yes.
And I was at the last meeting. I didn't hear that discussed.
It was a phone call.
From Mr. Brooks.
Yes, ma'am. All right, any other questions from council? All right, old business is the waste and recycling services contract. Are we anywhere on that? Did we?
Yep, it's the bids out there. Just receiving all of the bids and submission for the contracts.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Kirsten.
opening and closing date?
Closes the 13th.
Opening date?
February something, I don't know.
Closes 2/13?
Yep,
3.
I have to look. I can send it to you via email.
What methods were utilized for posting?
I use the state bid by Ohio Buys program, and they do everything. Well, we submit through them, and they do everything in the public forum. They even send invites out to the vendors. It's not a platform that we've used before, but the state strongly encourages it.
Can you also confirm, and I'm not sure if the software permits this, how many you've received so far?
Yeah. So far, I know for sure I received 4, at least 4. And some of them have not submitted a bid yet, but they've asked questions around the specifics of the RFP that I put out.
That was my next question. How can we get a copy of that RFP?
It's out there on the state website, but if you wanted me to just send it to you, I can.
Yes, versus me having to go look. I'm sure there are tons out there.
Ms. Sixteen, could you just send that to the whole committee?
Yes, please.
Please, thank you.
Thank you.
Did you have any other questions regarding that?
No, thank you.
Thank you. And the next, I'm sorry, do we have any other old business?
Yes. You said oh, wait, let me see. LED, just because you asked about it.
Yes.
So when I researched and dug deep, there was a contract out there to finish the LED, which it was like $22,000. When actually, if we just wait as they replace the lights, they will naturally replace them with LED. That's a $23,000 overhead we don't need to take on. So as the lights go out, they're just replacing them. So we're no longer in, like, they had kind of this splurge where they were replacing them in a certain amount of time frame, and then they sent out a contract to do the rest, like we do the entire city. And no one ever signed the contract. I don't know when it was sent. It was sent to Mr. Reuter, but I spoke to him extensively about that, and she resent the contract to me. And when I looked at the cost, it just isn't worth it. They will replace themselves within 2 to 3 years anyways for an extensive cost of $23,000 or $22,000.
Did we look into what the return on investment would be if we went that route versus the savings in the electrical bill?
And it's significantly, it's like $5,000 that we incur extra versus the $23,000 that we pay to have them all done at the same time.
Okay, thank you. Any other old business? All right, new business. It's new, but it's old. We had previously talked about getting a meter on the gasoline tank behind the 1500 building. Can we look into getting that?
So we have been looking into it. Right now, they're keeping a log. I can tell you for sure, fire keeps a log. I would say that Aaron keeps a log, which is building and code. And then I'm not sure about police. I just asked Shiva about this, and we were checking into it literally this week. Public Works is probably not keeping a log because they're right back there. But I don't want to misquote them. But we are looking into keeping better records of it and identifying who's getting what. Whether that looks like a meter or not, or it just looks like a log that we calculate against what is being used, and making sure that those numbers match to adequately make sure that they're all lining up we're figuring it out as we go forward.
Is there a reason you're not leaning towards the meter and just be done with it?
Because if we are asking about needs as it pertains to that gas tank, what we need is a fire hydrant back there before we get a meter. Because logs is a manual way that it serves as its own checks and balance.
Do we even know a price for the meter?
No, not yet, because we're trying to get something established right away.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Curtin.
on that same topic, is there a way, and I'm looking at the appropriations report, well, let's just talk through it. How much is the city spending per month, or even, I would even say per quarter, on fuel for the
I
city?
think I just saw, I don't know
How do we pay?
often the invoices are. We
Meaning
pay
the
by check.
frequency.
We pay, I don't know, because I just asked you that today. When I signed the check, it was the $2,500, it was roughly like $2,500. It was like 22 something, but I don't know the frequency.
So when was the last time a check was written?
I signed one today.
Before today?
I don't know. We don't have, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I asked her today the frequency, and she was saying she would look it up. So I don't know that she's had time to do that.
Understood. So at this time, we don't have any parameters to ensure only those who are permitted are using it? I don't want to assume that's what I'm hearing.
I mean, we have cameras back there. The public works is back there. They can't just go, no, like stranger can just go up there and fill up. It has like a lock and something on it. So it would only be city vehicles that are, I mean, they do a checks and balance with each other. Like,
Sure, honor system, right?
not the honor system, like 2 police cars may go over at the same time. They're only filling up their police cars. They can't take their personal cars back there.
I would hope not.
They're not.
Yeah. So we don't know how much we're spending. So I'm thinking as we started this new year, we didn't say, hey, we need to allot for 15,000 for the entire year. We didn't.
We did. We
did.
projected it based on our previous numbers, and then the cost of fuel based on the place that we're getting it from, and the I know that we're not in a contract because our
Okay.
previous contract was dropped, and then we went to a person that kind of supplied us quickly, and they didn't just drop North College Hill, they dropped Mount Healthy, they dropped Springfield Township, and the person that we're going with now, they are the most competitive rate, and they were the only ones that were willing to pick up all those little small cities because our amount of gas that we get is so low, the other people didn't want us anymore.
So going back to my original question, and thank you for that, Ms. Dukestein, if we can, and again, I don't want to add anything to anyone's plate, but I'm a numbers person. I always think about how much are we spending, what's our rate of return, is this good for the city? Is there a way that you can offer something that says, hey, in the month of January, or you know what, let's start in the month of February, this is what we spent, and then provide that at the beginning of March for fuel?
I think if you look at
Is there
the
like a checks and balances on that?
2026 budget, so we never go over. If you go to the 2026 budget to see the line item, I can provide that for you tomorrow. But we only budgeted for probably a little small increase of what we did last year.
Right. So what I'm asking, and that's super helpful, but I wanted to ask if Mrs. Stevens not could also provide something on a monthly, or even I would say to start maybe monthly and then going futuristically quarterly to see how much are we spending? Are we getting a good rate on our return? And is this good for the city?
What do you mean rate of return?
So for example, this vendor that you have, we're not in a contract. Is there another vendor or another supplier who would actually provide fuel at a lesser rate?
They were the most competitive that will bring us fuel, because
And,
a lot of the fuel providers didn't want to take our contract because it was so small.
Okay. I don't want to prolong this, but I'm just asking if there is a way we can determine how much we spend on a monthly basis on fuel. And if you can't, but if you can, that would be something that would serve this committee.
So I want to take that statement a step further. And I heard you say that each department creates a log. What's done with that log? So are there percentages figured out? So you just paid $2,500 for fuel. So does fire get a certain percentage, public works a certain percentage?
So there's
code?
two ways you can do it. I mean,
I'm just asking how you do it right now.
Right
That's what I'm
now,
asking.
what we do is we spread the cost evenly between each department. As we keep track with the log, we could potentially pull that process back and charge according to how they're spending.
So there's a log, but it's not necessarily.
We just started the log at the end of probably 25. There was not, and historically has not been, a log. I don't know how long. I mean, I'm sure you know that as a council, being on council, I was on council, I was aware of that. And we had multiple city administrators explain that we put the cost across. We do multiple.
And that's kind of why I'm saying that the meter would
But we do
be
multiple
more
things
exact
like that. So
on
we do
which department would get charged for what they use.
That's not uncommon for cities to disperse fuel costs across multiple departments. We also do trash that way. We also do electricity that way. We can disperse it across multiple departments. We don't say, well, Public Works only uses this, so we only charge them this. If fuel would be one of the things that we would begin to do that with. It is not an uncommon practice to have a general cost for an entire city and any department that partakes in the use of that particular utility or item, that we spread it evenly across the departments. That is not an uncommon practice.
Whether it's uncommon or not, I'm not sure that that's even part of the conversation.
But that's historically what we have been doing. So if
Right,
as
but
we
that
get a
doesn't mean we
better
can't improve
understand-
the process.
Agreed, which is why we started keeping a log. We wanted to make sure we have a checks and balances, and we may keep it the way that it is if we look at it and it seems to be roughly average, because you have some machinery that takes more fuel than others and that uses more fuel. So for example, you have more police cars, but then you have fewer fire trucks and you have fewer public works trucks, but they take a different amount of gas, which is huge. They may have 80 gallons, whereas a car may only have 19 or 20 or 25. And so you can get 4 cars in that one price that you would put in one public works truck. So if we just look at it and determine that it is, one department is gapingly using more fuel than another, first we'll look at why. And then we'll ask, is it useful to average it out, or is it to charge it individually?
Madam Chair, may I make a recommendation for our committee? And I'm
Yes,
not
please.
sure if this is something administration can offer, but is there a way for our committee to actually see these logs? I thank you for being open to everything so far that we've asked regarding the meter, but is there a way that maybe by our next or even
Yeah,
better
we
yet?
can see the logs,
Yeah.
but I
That's
don't
all.
have
We
any-
can-
I don't have an issue with seeing the
Okay,
logs, but
perfect.
that decision, actually, how we do it, is an administrative decision.
It is administrative, but however, council legislatively makes sure that we are spending fiscally. We have to ensure that every dollar spent in this city makes sense. So administratively, we will give you that leeway to do as you please. But from legislative perspective, council's duty is to serve the dollars, to make sure the dollars that are spent for everybody in this city is spent wisely. And not saying that it's not. I'm not saying that. So I think that's a good point where, again,
No, I don't mind providing the reports. I was
Okay.
just dealing with the questioning around how we were doing it.
okay, no problem. If you can just provide it, that's why I didn't even ask about the process of how. That's why I went directly into the cost factor.
All right. Any other new business? Going once? Going twice? All right. We are adjourned at 9:08.